I'm RJ Saunders for 1010XL. This update brought to you by Kuhn Flowers. The final major deadline of the offseason calendar came and went, which was the deadline for players to withdraw their names from the NBA draft and return to college. Now the 2025-26 college basketball landscape is finally coming into focus. In ESPN's early NCAA Top 25 rankings, the Florida Gators have jumped from the 18th best team in the country prior to the deadline to now the second slot, right behind the Purdue Boilermakers, who currently enjoy the number 1 seed. According to reports, former Jaguars wide receiver Gabe Davis is scheduled to travel to Pittsburgh on Wednesday to visit with the Steelers on Thursday. Last year, Davis posted 20 receptions for 239 yards and 2 touchdowns for Jacksonville. Currently 83 degrees at 11:58. Time and 10 brought to you by Bueller Air and Plumbing. Stay cooler with Bueller.
1010XL is presented by Farah & Farah, exclusive injury law firm of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Protecting you and your family. Call 396-5555, Jacksonville. Now, get ready to spend the next 2 hours with our 3 sports-loving ladies, Mia O'Brien, Lauren Brooks, and Taylor Dahl.
This is Helmets and Heels
on 1010XL.
Show me what you got, pretty lady.
All right, y'all, we normally start this show talking about sports, and we normally talk about sports for the majority of the show. But I have a very important food question for all 3 of you.
I
important.
love food.
Yes, me too. Has anyone tried the limited edition Old Bay seasoned goldfish?
We have had Old Bay seasoned chips for quite some time in my household.
But not the goldfish.
Not the goldfish. I did try the Pop-Tarts goldfish a few weeks ago, or a few months ago, I should say, and it actually was pretty delectable. But given the Maryland influence in my household,
sure,
I would not be surprised if by the time I get home this afternoon, because Lauren Brooks referenced this on Helmets and Heels right off the top of the show, I would not be surprised if there is Old Bay goldfish awaiting for me now.
There is a certain grocery store in town that we love called Publix. It's buy 2, get 1 free.
Oh, boy.
I wanted to get the listeners' opinion if y'all hadn't had them yet. Because I almost bought them, but I was like, I need to get, a little bit of feedback before I do it.
We needed to do a taste test is what we really need.
Well, if we get good feedback today on the text line designed by Lifetime Enclosures, 64110, I will bring them in tomorrow.
I'm down for that. Yeah, I don't think I have tried them. I
think they're brand new.
Yeah, and I've seen Old Bay obviously flavored different things. They're like different types of chips and stuff that I have tried that are delicious, so I would guess they are also delicious.
Is it Utz? Is it Utz? UTZ?
Yeah, I think it's
they do
those
the
that
Old
have
Bay
that-
chips. Yeah, that's the one that I love.
Yeah. RJ, have you tried them?
No, I haven't been able to get my
Have
hands
you
on
had
them.
Old Bay, RJ?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you keep Old Bay in your household?
I would
Old
like
Bay
to
spice.
think so. Yeah, it's probably in there somewhere.
Okay. I mean, you can't make a Bloody Mary without Old Bay. You also can't season, I feel like, any sort of seafood without Old Bay. So, yeah, I feel like a lot of pantries or cabinets would have it in there. But I just had to ask the question, and so we need y'all's feedback if you've had it. If not, then tomorrow we will do a taste test here. I'll bring a couple different types of goldfish. Goldfish are one of my favorite snacks. I normally don't buy them because I will attack them.
Yeah, the whole bag will be gone.
Absolutely.
They're so easy to, those ones, and you
Like,
don't
they're
even
good for me.
realize. You're like, next thing you know, you look in the bag and it's like halfway gone. You're like, oh, okay. Well, I didn't even realize I ate as many as I did.
Potato chips, I'll put some on my plate and then I'll put the bag away because they're addictive. But I'm like, they're not that, good for me either. But I feel like goldfish are so healthy. People are calling us now. So they can weigh in to RJ and then let us know what you think about the limited edition goldfish that have the Old Bay seasoning. All right, let's get it to last year's top 5 offensive rookie of the years. As we all know, Jaden Daniels was a well-deserving number 1 place finisher in that offensive rookie of the year vote last year. And there are lots of other guys that I think are certainly deserving. There's one guy, though, Mia, that I feel like is not mentioned amongst these top guys. And so the voting last year went Jaden Daniels, Brock Bowers, Bo Nix, Brian Thomas Jr., Malik Neighbors, those who rounded out the top 5 finalists. There's one guy in particular, in my opinion, that I think deserves to be in that top 5 that I feel like never gets mentioned. And Ladd McConkey does get mentioned. But Bucky Irving, I think, deserved to be in the votes, and he wasn't in there. And obviously, we bring this conversation up because Liam Cohen coached Bucky Irving last year.
I would say this, especially if you haven't had a chance, go check out Friday's Duval Rundown. Our good friend Evan Klosky of 10 Tampa Bay stopped by. Bucky Irving really didn't take off until the midway point of the season. The Liam Cohen offense evolved from what he believed he would run to suddenly being without Mike Evans and Chris Godwin, to leaning all the way into, and this is a pretty common misconception of the 2024 Tampa Bay Buccaneers offense, Cade Otton did not take off until week 14. This was a great stat that Evan and I found from Friday's episode. Before the Buccaneers trip to SoFi Stadium to play the Los Angeles Chargers, in which they ran 13 personnel, 15 plays. The previous 14 plays, they lined up with multiple tight ends on just 23 plays in 14 games. And much of it had to deal with, hey, we want extra blockers to create an opportunity for the run game to excel, which we've heard Liam Cohen in his time as head coach of the Jacksonville Jaguars, time in and time out, stress the need for a strong run game. He said it yesterday in order to have a strong red zone offense. But even as I look at week by week, Lauren, I think that Rachaad White, for all of his shortcomings, he may not be an every down back in the NFL. I don't think he's the lead back that many now think of when they think of Tampa Bay. But Bucky Irving, until that win over New Orleans, that, if you remember, that was right after the two hurricanes had barreled through the West Coast and the Buccaneers had to move their operation to Louisiana. In that game, he had 14 carries because of attrition at the position. Sean Tucker also had a very strong and very notable presence in that game. Up to that point, the most carries he had in a game were 10. And the next 3 weeks, he had 9, 7 carries. And it wasn't until a Week 10 meeting with the San Francisco 49ers that you suddenly saw him climbing back into the double digits. And so to that point,
he had over 1,500 yards total.
Right. Well, he also did an eclipse. If we want to go by yards and not carries, okay, he didn't go over 100 yards in a single game until Week 12.
Right. But I still think
he was hitting like 60s, 70s, 80s, and then just not as much. And I think that was a testament to when you have Mike Evans and Chris Godwin and all of the weapons that you do have, you didn't have to rely on your run game so much. But to me, the moment you needed him, he was able to do it. And I think that stands out. But I think also people would argue that it took Brian Thomas Jr. a bit, too, to get to that point.
Because they weren't throwing him the ball. Yeah,
and so also, you're not using Bucky. You're not using Brian Thomas Jr. But I think that when you look at as a whole, if you're talking about a player and their development from week 1 to the end of the year, and when they were asked to do more if they could do it, those two players are a prime example of how that works.
But that's also then where positional value comes into play. And ultimately, while we are seeing running backs get paid on the open market, perhaps more than they were 3 or 4 years ago, perhaps getting more respect, the run game is back in vogue. At the same time, I believe for a running back to be considered for postseason honors, whether it be Offensive Rookie of the Year or Offensive Player of the Year or even MVP, Lauren, you sat here, you made the case for Saquon Barkley. Guess who didn't win MVP? Saquon Barkley. There is still a dismissal of that position.
And I probably should have won it.
When it comes to postseason. Right.
And when we look at, obviously the Super Bowl MVP was going to be Jalen Hurts, but Saquon Barkley certainly had a massive season for them. So the
point is it's positional value, in my opinion. That's the reason why you don't see, if he had consistently, where you couldn't ignore him, had 100-yard games dating back to September, maybe it's a different conversation.
He had 1,514 yards from scrimmage. So that was both rushing yards and receiving yards. He averaged 4.03 yards after contact per carry on the ground and forced 57 missed tackles on 207 rushing attempts. I bring him up because I think outside of until the Jaguars got Liam Cohen from the Bucs, I don't think anyone was talking that highly of Bucky Irving in a conversation about some of the top 5 or in the top 5 offensive rookie of the years. And I understand positional value with Bo Nix and what he was able to do. If you look at PFF's grades of the rookies from 2024, Bucky Irving's number 1. He had the highest grade, even above Jaden Daniels. But again, Jaden Daniels is his job is a lot more difficult than Bucky's.
Yeah, it's funny because when you posed the question to us before the show, and you just said, like, if you were to have your 5 offensive rookie of the years, Bucky Irving was my 3rd. Okay. I put him as number 3 on my list, and I had BTJ, Brock Bowers, Bucky, then Jaden, then Malik. And my mind went to that immediately, but I also have an extra love for running backs because I think that I've seen a world where how more efficient offenses can be when you have that running back that can do so much. And to your point, he had almost 400 yards in the receiving game too. And that's what I was kind of saying yesterday of how I could see Liam Cohen bringing that back out of Travis Etienne also, because it's something we've seen flashes of, but for some reason I feel like they've neglected it. And that's one of the biggest strengths of his game, in my opinion. And so they did add, that was such a big part of Bucky Irving. He didn't have a receiving touchdown, so it wasn't like he was used in those situations, but he was used during the game in moments when you had to get that first down, and Bucky was the guy that was catching the ball and also running the ball. So I do think it's so important to have those backs, and I do think that we saw this kind of resurgence, but then at the same time, people are like, okay, well, yeah, but all of the names that we're listing of these running backs that are all went to good teams. We're talking about Saquon going to Philly, and we're talking about Derrick Henry going to the Ravens, and we're talking about Aaron Jones going to the Vikings, and we're talking about Josh Jacobs going to the Packers. They're already good teams that the running backs were just elevating, and I think Bucky is similar in that aspect, and maybe that's why he wasn't getting as much love, because they already felt like this offense was efficient, and he just kind of, you got to plug him in and be like, hey, go. But I think you have to give him some love.
All right, so your 5, Sam, one more time.
BTJ, Brock Bowers, Bucky Irving, Jaden Daniels, Malik Neighbors.
Okay, so we have the exact same top 5. Jaden Daniels, Brian Thomas Jr., Bucky Irving. I didn't do them in a specific order.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Brock Bowers and Malik Neighbors, and it probably could have gone in that order. But it's interesting, again, that Bo Nix conversation, I get it. He was really good with the Broncos as a rookie quarterback, and I don't think the expectations were nearly as high for him, too. So he was really impressive. And Brock Bowers, we talked about it all pre-draft last year. All these teams kept saying, we'd love to take him.
He's going to be really good, but I don't know if you take a tight end that high.
He literally didn't have a quarterback. He did not have a quarterback last year.
Right, which is why Malik Neighbors and Brock Bowers look at their future, like this, the future projection of what they can be once they get a good quarterback, assuming that the Raiders and Giants have some sort of a good quarterback this year.
Yeah, and that's why for me, I mean, my voting goes exactly as it went. Not to be chalky, but that's how I would structure it. Jaden Daniels, undoubtedly taking a franchise. I know that they... Worst to first, we had this conversation also last week on Duval Rundown. I understand that they didn't win the NFC East, but they did go all the way to the NFC Championship game. So I would argue that's worst to first. And the fact that as a rookie, he was able to do that with a first-year, well, not first time, but a first-year head coach, a first-year GM, it's extremely impressive for me. There's no question. But Brock Bowers has to be second by virtue of everything else that was going on or not going on around him.
Seeing him in person was so much fun. My goodness.
It's
at Allegiant Stadium.
It's mind-numbing because you're like, he literally has like you or me throwing the football to him.
and we've talked about his personality so many times. Like he's not the...
All ball.
Yeah, he's not the big flamboyant personality.
Here's the thing, though. If we're going to have a conversation about Brock Bowers and Malik Neighbors succeeding and thriving.
Brian Thomas Jr. too.
And Brian Thomas Jr., especially last year, in spite of the situation around them. Bo Nix, it's interesting to me because, yes, he has Sean Payton, who will go down as one of the best coaches of our generation.
Absolutely.
He has a defense and a former Broncos head coach, now turned DC, in Vance Joseph, that is going to go into the season projected as a top 5, top 10 unit. But offensively, well, yes, you have Cortland Sutton. Last year on offense, one of the better offensive lines.
Yeah, he barely got sacked 20 times.
I'll give the Broncos that. But in terms of playmakers, in terms of skill players, Marvin Mims had his moments.
Mm-hmm.
The running back by committee approach worked well. Sorry, Audric Estime.
Yeah.
We know we'd love to see him, be maybe a lead tailback, but they had a rotation of running backs.
Yep.
It wasn't like he had a Malik Neighbors or a Brian Thomas Jr. or a Brock Bowers. And so that's where, yes, he's managing the situation that Sean Payton has outlined for him. And so perhaps you say, look at what he's doing. But also I think there was enough of a glide path for Bucky to succeed because they also have a top 5 offensive line in the National Football League in Tampa Town. He also had Rashad White and Sean Tucker, 2 veteran players in the backfield next to him. He also had the virtue of Mike Evans and Chris Godwin for part of the season and Liam Cohen as a play caller.
Yeah.
Which it's interesting. Mina Kimes had Bo Nix not in her top 5 and had Ladd McConkey in her top 5. Did not have Bucky Irving, who we did, Taylor. But yeah. And you can look at it from certainly lots of different angles. The most productive versus the person who's shown without having the weapons or the person who's shown without having the quarterback.
Yeah.
I think from our perspective, that's how we're always going to look at it is without the quarterback because it was Mac Jones for a lot of last season.
Yeah, and I think you obviously, how much are you counting into situational things that are kind of going on and how much are you accounting the offensive line? Because if you're talking about the offensive line, that drastically affects different guys. Like when it comes to those quarterbacks, for example, if you're talking about a Bo Nix and a Jaden and even throwing Caleb Williams in there, their numbers statistically were all very similar. They all had between 35 and 3,700 yards. Caleb had 20 touchdowns. Jaden Daniels had 25. And then Bo Nix had 29, I think. But Bo Nix had more interceptions. Jaden Daniels had more interceptions than both of them. Caleb was sacked 30 more times than Jaden Daniels and 50 more times than Bo Nix. So you have to start taking, if you want to start taking into account, that's the quarterback ones were harder for me. That's why I moved Jaden, I put mine in order and I moved it down because I do think that functionality of what they put him in did help him a lot. And I think that even though they were first time there in Washington, I think it was the most functional coaching situation when it came to a lot of some of these other guys. Even when you look at Malik Neighbors, for example, we'll see. I know that the Giants fans are not over Dable yet, but I do think there's people that are critical of him because what have he done? But then you look at the quarterback situation there, and it's hard to not put him on my list personally because I think that there's a time your starting quarterback got sent off in the middle of the season, and then you went through a Tim Boyle and a DeVito and a Drew Lock, and that's what you're trying to figure out. So even here, if you're going to talk about that here with Brian Thomas Jr. just going from Trevor to Mac, then you definitely have to talk about it in New York.
Yeah, for sure. And to bring this conversation full circle, as far as to your point, Taylor, about situational, being able to run the football in critical situations when the other team knows you're running the football is so incredibly important. And not just red zone, but anywhere you are on the field. If it's a 3rd and 2 and you are running the football and the other team knows you're running the football and you're still able to get those 2 yards, what a dream come true. And that's where I go back to Bucky Irving and being able to, yes, Baker Mayfield had a phenomenal season, but also knowing that he could hand the ball off and that the Bucs offense would generate that first down time in and time out. Man, it must be nice.
And that's also where, in terms of the Jaguars plugging and playing exactly what Liam Cohen was able to do in Tampa, there's a variety of reasons that I don't think that is exactly how this is going to play out. But number one of them is that the Tampa offensive line is top 5 year in and year out, has changed the pieces, and yet I feel like we still underrate their value to that offense last year.
I mean, if this team could have a top 10 offensive line this upcoming
top 15,
season.
I would say. Taylor's got the stat on Luke Fortner from the last 7 years being the worst statistical blocker at the center position. I know he didn't play last year.
Yeah.
Right, but this is the last 7 years. Point being, I think that you could be top 15.
Yeah.
And it's a significant improvement.
It's definitely an improvement. But yeah, that's where, and the conversation always goes back to Trevor Lawrence, to your point about the sacks. He'd be like, y'all, if I only had some time.
20 sacks.
Correct.
Could you imagine a year where you're only talking about 20 sacks from your quarterback only getting hit that little of a time? And it is when you go, because that's honestly, I didn't realize how little it was for Bo Nix, but it makes a lot of sense because that affects so many things. If you're not getting hit, obviously the timing that you have to actually see where all your receivers are and let things play out and not have to rush decisions. And when you have quarterbacks who, especially in their rookie year, people are in their face, defensive linemen are in their face immediately. You're making those decisions so much quicker. And these guys are so competitive that they're trying to still do what they did in college. And sometimes it doesn't transfer that way. So only getting sacked 24 times as a rookie, that gives you so much, that gives you time to breathe for a second and not have to panic and rush and feel like you have to play Superman.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, we'll keep the NFL conversation going. You are listening to Helmets and Heels on 1010X on 92.5 FM.
School's out for summer. More time for 1010XL 92.5 FM.
When you need a mechanic you can trust, call Sam, Harry, or Joe at AA Automotive on Richard Street. From oil changes to complex engine repairs, AA Automotive promises expert service and honest pricing from a local family biz. AA Automotive on Richard Street.
The joys of home ownership. Until the plumbing backs up, the AC goes out, or your septic system decides to act up. The good news? You don't have to call 3 different companies when things go wrong. Just call my friends at Duck Duck Rooter. They're your one-stop shop for plumbing, septic, and air conditioning, all under one roof. So whether it's a leak, a clog, or your system just won't cool, they've got you covered too. Don't take my word for it. Check out their 5-star reviews on Google. From the moment you call to the moment the tech solves your issue, you will receive first-class service every step of the way. Give them a ring at 904-862-6769 or visit duckduckrooter.com. Duck Duck Rooter Plumbing, Septic, and Air Conditioning. One call does it all.
Have you got concrete or asphalt rubble piling up? Arcosa Crushed Concrete will pay you for it and recycle it. They're just minutes from Everbank Stadium on Talleyrand. Call Arcosa Crushed Concrete and get paid for what you don't need. ArcosaCrushedConcrete.com.
Frank Frangie here. I was talking to a buddy the other day. His HOA told him his old fence had to go. I said, man, call Coil Fencing. They've been around the block since 1927. Heck, they probably built half the fences in Jacksonville. They do it all. Tough chain link for security. Those fancy aluminum ones the HOA actually likes. Nearly a century of keeping yards safe and looking good. If you need a fence, call Coyle. You can trust the folks at Coyle. 904-356-4821 or visit CoyleJacks.com, COYLE Jacks.com.
Brian and Angela Wall here with Window World. By now, everyone has heard about saving money on their energy bills. There are all sorts of things you can do to cut energy costs, but most people don't think about their windows.
But Window World knows that the biggest energy loss in almost every home is the windows. There is more energy loss from old builder-grade windows than just about anything else in your home.
You can upgrade your heating and air, your appliances. That's good too. But before you do all that, upgrade your windows to Window World's energy-efficient windows.
Window World's windows are easy to clean, energy efficient, and have the best guarantee in the business.
Window World's slogan is simply the best for less, and we mean it. You get great American-made windows, and you get to keep more of your money when you buy from Window World. Need any more reasons to buy your windows from Window World? Call them today and set up your free in-home estimate, or go online to windowworldneflorida.com.
Window
World,
simply the best for less.
Thank you for your business.
Window World also offers energy-efficient doors.
Hey, Hickett here for my friends at Zero Res. Gang, vacuuming is not sufficient to maintain the cleanliness and lifespan of your carpet, period. Do not, let me repeat, do not leave deep cleaning to yourself, but do it yourself dirt attracting carpet soaking machines. No. Call on the cleaning freaks from Zero Res. Big summer savings. 3 rooms of carpet clean starting at $129. Take 20% off air duct cleaning as well. Call them, 904-287-5727, and ask for the 1010XL special. Zero Res, spell it forwards or backwards. It's the right way to clean.
Been in a car crash? I'm local attorney Rick Alexander, and I've made it our mission at the Alexander Law Practice to listen to you so I can fight for the best possible result for you. I've been practicing over 30 years, and our team focuses on guiding you through the entire process. And because fees and reimbursement costs come out at the end of the case, I will never ask you to come out of pocket. For a free review, call 904-400-6600 or log on to alexanderlawpractice.com, Jacksonville.
Jacksonville's building a playoff team in team.
All right, we're going to play to win.
Follow 1010XL's coverage of organized team activities. Backed by Heroes Lawn Care and Hurricane Grill and Wings. Tune up the off-season with AA Automotive and 1010XL.
Hacker here. Y'all know I needed to do something about my weight. When I saw Matt and Mike eating to lose weight, I figured that could probably work for me. And it did. Just look at me now. If you need a weight loss plan that works, visit Awaken180weightloss.com.
Daily Stash is not only your Jaguars game day stop, but a great place to grab a meal any day of the week. To honor the Jags and the fans, we've crafted the Duval sub. The Duval comes with freshly sliced turkey, ham, melted cheddar, and habanero jack cheese, topped with crisp lettuce, fresh tomatoes, and a double portion of our secret sauce, all served on a fresh roll. Come by your local's Daily Stash today to get your delicious Duval sub. Dailies is the official convenience store sponsor of the Jacksonville Jaguars.
We've all seen great overtime games and thrilling finishes, but when it comes to having a big time, knowing when to say when is key. Budweiser reminds you to win the day and night by designating a driver. That's a victory every time.
Joint replacement surgery is always a tough decision, but relief from chronic pain may be just around the corner. Dr. George Barry here, and there's a lot to consider to make sure you get the proper diagnosis and best path back to the range of motion and mobility you had. Age, lifestyle, and overall health all play a part. Let the team at Barry Orthopedics give you a full analysis to help you make the best decision. Log on to BarryOrthopedics.com or call the office to make an appointment. With offices across Jacksonville and ready to help you feel good again, we'll get you back on the road to recovery at Barry Orthopedics.
You'll always feel good when you send someone a Kuhn Flowers floral or plant arrangement. This is RJ with 1010XL, and no matter what the reason, Kuhn Flowers has always come through for me. Order online at kuhnflowers.com.
Mark Watson with Hardball Creative, letting you know that Hardball now offers web stores, so your employees can order their own branded gear, and you have more time for Wordle. Check it out at hardballcreative.com.
Hardball Creative. Hardball does it all. 1010XL is presented by Farah and Farah, exclusive injury law firm of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Protecting you and your family. Call 396-5555. Jacksonville.
Mia O'Brien, RJ Saunders. back with us today. I'm Lauren Brooks with you. I love behind-the-scenes looks at all things football, especially the NFL does such a great job, whether it's our Jaguars, people with Jaguars.com, and all the behind-the-scenes looks that we get with the hunt, or the Panthers today released some behind-the-scenes footage of what was going on in their draft room, their war room, as they were talking to the Rams about a potential trade back.
Which quick side note, who do we think the Rams were trying to go up for?
Well, our friend Jordan Rodriguez said Ted McMillan.
Oh.
So people were assuming that it was Colston Loveland.
Yeah, that's what I assumed.
Because the Rams had been so high on tight ends in the past and had certainly looked into Brock
And
Bowers.
that's when Adam Schefter came out with that report saying there were a lot of calls until Chicago took Colston, and then all the calls stopped for 20 picks or something like that.
Fascinating.
So, it could be Colston Loveland, the Michigan tight end, but I trust everything Rams connected, or Jordan is so connected to the Rams, so I could trust everything she says when it comes to the Rams. She thinks it was Ted McMillan, So then you'd have, 3 different really good wide receivers between Puka Nacua, Devontae Adams, and Ted McMillan if they were to make that trade from
Talk about
26
running 11 personnel. My God.
Yeah, exactly. And so the Jordan Rodriguez also wrote a great article in The Athletic, as she always does, and it dives into a time when Sean McVay, the Rams head coach, was going through not necessarily depression, I'm not going to classify it as that, but just a time when he wasn't as happy with what he's doing anymore, and he contemplated retiring from coaching back in 2022. And he ended up getting a phone call from someone and a voicemail from someone who had already been through all that. And Chris Peterson, who was the longtime Boise State head coach and then Washington head coach as far as college football is concerned. And Chris said that he just saw the look in Sean's eyes after a press conference and realized he is not who he normally is. He does not have that spark in his eyes that he normally does. And ever since then, they've had a 2-year pretty much relationship where, I guess we're on 3 now, where they just talk about life. And what I loved was Jordan details what Chris Peterson and his staff would do. And that is, and I feel like this is unheard of in the college realm.
Yeah.
They would just get together and talk about life. The coaches wouldn't even necessarily always talk about X's and O's. They would talk about life. And while the X's and O's are incredibly important, it's also good to have those conversations about just what people are going through to be able to then collaborate on that football level as well.
Independent of this tremendous behind the scenes look, which advocates, in my estimation, not just for therapy, but the idea of speaking your truth to someone, not bottling things up, not trying to be macho man, like the sport of football in particular has certainly projected for the better part of ever.
And having a mentor, too, that understands what you're going through.
Correct. Even independent of that, I think that there's a couple things that I took away from the lessons that Chris Peterson shared with Sean McVay that were conveyed in Jordan's article that I think relate back to what we have already seen in small sizes, what Liam Cohen is doing. So let's start with this. We had Ezra Cleveland yesterday, my one-on-one conversation with him, and I asked him about the not the Ninja, what's it called? Why am I blanking on the name of it now? The Iron Man Jaguar that Eric Ciano, the new strength and conditioning coach, has brought to the Jaguars weight room. And Ezra spoke about it on this very program. And he said this idea of you're paired with players from other position groups, you're on teams in the weight room, you're competing against each other in a variety of competitions. And he said there's a lot of guys who I otherwise would not even talk to that now I'm like, man, maybe I want to go hang out with that guy. And that is looked at by many as a college-y strategy. And Ezra even called it's a throwback to college. But to read that Chris Peterson was doing that at Washington and Sean McVay has looked at that as an example and said, maybe that's something I need to bring to the table. Knowing what Jim Harbaugh brought to the Los Angeles Chargers last year, this time a year ago, so many people said, oh, they're bringing everything from college to the NFL. Well, what did the Chargers do last year? They went to the postseason. Yeah. They won. So I'm not saying that it's a one-size-fits-all, but this idea of maybe there are some practices that are not kumbaya sitting in a circle, but that actually develop rapport that the NFL should take from college. And the approach shouldn't be, well, we're all professionals here. We're just here to do a job. You clock in, you clock out, and you leave. Yeah. I thought that was very, very telling. That in particular for me.
Yeah, and I think that when you talk about teams and you talk about the ones who win the Super Bowl and afterwards, when you look at the relationships that these people have, when you think about the Kansas City Chiefs, you think about the relationship that Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce have. And that goes beyond just during games. You're constantly seeing them do things together. They're Taylor Swift and Britney did now. I think they have some things going on. But
I don't know anything about that, so we'll skip over that.
That's very political things.
Caitlin Clark will mend the fence. It's okay.
Yeah.
It's all good.
But I do think when you look at the most successful organizations, the majority of the time, you have the one-offs. And you can go back to 2017 here, and I think that's why it didn't work, because there was a lot of personalities that worked well on the football field but not well in the locker room. And that's when that implosion kind of happened the next year, when all of those personalities that didn't get along together, and maybe some of them just didn't get along, maybe they just didn't really give it enough time, things like this, to get to know each other outside of the football world.
And that team didn't win the Super Bowl, so it's not like we can look back and say, well, they were victorious, so it doesn't matter, kind of like the Rams.
Yeah, and so I do think that there is a good chunk of everything you do in life to where you want to be able to, even in this building, you want to be able to get along with people beyond just sitting behind the microphone. Like, that's a big part of connections and how things are grown and made and developed. And I do think that the article is great. I tweeted one thing that really stood out to me, because as it goes through, it talks about kind of some of the things Sean McVay was going through and how he felt. And I've been there in life when you just feel like things are kind of stagnant and nothing, and it's not technically like you're depressed or you're this, you just feel like you're kind of in this rut, and you're like, okay, well, how do I get out of this? Because things are good, like things aren't bad, but you just kind of feel like you're on autopilot. And that's the sense that I was getting from him, because he was saying, you're coming off of this really good season, and then things don't really go the way you want, and you just don't really feel like yourself. You're not treating people the way that you should probably be treating, and that's not really the on purpose, but you're going into your office and closing your door rather than keeping it open and letting guys come in and talk to you and being open about things. But he said one thing towards the end of this article. He said for years his slogan and the starting point for his team and the team culture has been "we, not me," and now it will say "we, then me." And I loved that so much, because I think so many times now people are like, oh, it's a team sport. Worry about your team. There's no I in team, da-da-da. You also have to be happy, and you have to be able to kind of live with yourself. Like, you're the only person that has to live with yourself every single day and every single moment of every day. And so I do think that there's a part of that you need to put yourself in the equations a lot of times. And especially men, they're told not to do that. They're kind of just like, be tough. Yeah, like you don't have to, you take care of everybody else, and you have to be the soldier in every situation. And I think that sometimes they need to be told that, no, you also need to worry about your mental health and like you just doing things for yourself.
I would argue, at the very least, I know my mother would probably echo that sentiment too, because I've seen it, running her own business for my entire life. And at some point in time, I'm like, dude, you got to take care of yourself. Because if you don't take care of yourself, if you're not the best version of yourself, how can you show up for people and be the best version that you can be for them?
I feel like moms would be like, yeah, we don't ever have the full
we don't
option.
have that, right? And that's what she would say is, well, I don't have that option. Right. Sean McVay is proof. He did not think he had the option to step back and say, wow, I need to, as somebody, and we've spoken about this as I'm reading the book, our good friend Mike Silvers, the why is everything. Sean McVay is proponent number one of, I need to help players make the why accessible. But perhaps he didn't even actually know what his personal why was until he had this conversation with Chris Peterson. And that's why I thought it was pretty telling that he told Chris Peterson that this past season was the first season, despite being a head coach since 2017, that he actually felt like he was a head coach.
I also liked the part where Sean McVay talked about how he probably didn't handle the Jared Goff situation properly.
Yeah.
Because
I've heard some things there, so yeah.
I don't know that publicly we've heard that from Sean McVay, and I'm not saying that he issued an apology through this article. I'm not saying that. But I do think that there are times that you look back in life and you kind of go, dang, I mishandled that.
Right, yeah.
And as long as that person's still alive, you still do have time to go back and be like, all right,
have some conversations.
I needed to do something differently here. I needed to say something differently, and I'm sorry about how things went. And I hope that they've been able to have that conversation. Obviously, you'd have to ask Jared Goff if they have or not, but I do think that was at least eye-opening to me, that he's had enough self-reflection to realize that he needs to treat people, even if he's going to end up discarding them to another team, he still needs to treat that person as a human being.
Proper ways to do that. Yeah,
absolutely.
And I've talked to a lot of people in the Lions organization about when Goff first came there, and he was very upset. And he was also upset, not only felt like he was just getting like tossed to the side, but he was also upset because he felt like he wasn't being coached properly too. And it might have been in the place that Sean McVay was at that time, and he may not have been putting some of the things into Jared Goff that since then, now having this conversation with Peterson, that he's been able to, because a lot of the people that I've talked to in Detroit say Jared Goff got there and he hadn't been taught any of the like pre-snap, reading blitzes, any of those things. And they said because Sean McVay would be in his ear the entire game, like, okay, throw it here. This is what you're going to do. This person's coming here. So he was micromanaging every single thing Jared Goff was doing. So when he got to Detroit and started working with Ben Johnson, he said it was just like this world of difference because Ben Johnson instilled this confidence in him of, you can do all of these things. I don't have to tell you this. And sometimes players need that extra level of like, you've got it. I don't have to do every step. So as I was reading this, I'm like, it makes sense now. I don't think Sean McVay was in a place at that time where he really maybe wanted to be that person to have to, I'm trying that phrase where it's like teach a man to fish or give whatever.
Yep.
Like that type of thing.
If you teach him to fish, he'll eat for a lifetime.
Yeah,
yes,
that
exactly.
type of thing. And so now I think that's opened his eyes against in that world. And I do think relating that to Jacksonville, it's the type of coach that Liam Cohen is. He's that guy that's like, okay, I can teach you, we can do all these fundamentals and I can baby you through all of these situations, but I don't want to have to do that. I want to teach you so you can take these and grow and develop on your own.
And that's what's interesting because this story from Jordan also includes something that she's reported on, which was she confronted Sean McVay, and I believe it would have been week 10 or week 11 of that 2022 season in which Liam Cohen was returning to LA as the offense coordinator, and she confronted Sean and said, did you give up play calling to Liam?
Yeah.
And he said, yeah, I did. And then basically was like mad at Liam for not running his offense. And Liam's like looking around. And now you read this and you realize that the door to his office was closed. And he basically said, figure it out.
Yeah.
Do it my way, but figure it out without having that cohesive conversation. And now it's where a lot of those pieces do connect now from the multiple stories that we've read, not just from Jordan, but from across the league. And I'm happy for Sean McVay. On a human level, this is an evolution that I think, and I actually had a couple of my friends who I worked in news with share this story with me, independent of it being something I knew we were going to talk about today. Because it is something that I think in the macho world of the NFL or the overstimulated, oversaturated world of media, that you start running what I describe as the hamster wheel. And because you're micromanaging the offense and because this is your system and because you have to do it and I'm not going to delegate it because it'll just go quicker if I do it. Because that is instilled in us, and maybe it's an American modern 21st century thing, we never actually say, you know what, let me take a step off the treadmill. Let me take a step off the hamster wheel for a hot second and stop running the rat race and rest and reevaluate the situation because it's like, well, I have to do this.
Because when is there time to do that when you work full time? Like, especially in those types of jobs, when you're working 7 days a week, there isn't that one day that you take to rest. The quote, by the way, give a man a fish and you feed him for a day. Teach a man to fish and you feed him for a lifetime, right? We'll keep this conversation going.
Just go fishing.
Yeah, just go fishing. Travis Hunter would say that solves everything. Brock Purdy, too. You are listening to Helmets and Heels on 10 to Nix on 92.5 FM.
Climb aboard the Jacksonville Sports Radio train.
All aboard!
1010XL.
Storms don't wait, so why should you? Protect your home and your wallet with Universal Roof and Contracts. Save 15% on roof replacements and repairs now through June 30th. And financing is available with payments as low as $115. Call 855-ROOF-HELP for your free inspection. Universal Roof and Contracting. Protecting your home, building your trust. License number CCC 057165, CBC 1258484.
UniversalRoof.com. I'm here with Clayton Bromberg of Underwoods. Clayton, you talk a lot about a diamond's cut grade. Why is a diamond graded for cut?
Frank, that's simple. We cut grade diamonds to show a measurement of beauty and light return to the person looking at the diamond so they can understand the value difference between a diamond cut for maximum beauty and one cut for maximum weight. Now, it gets a little more complicated when you find out that the American Gem Society Laboratory actually assigns performance grades and proportion grades using patented computer software and grades for polish and symmetry using a microscope. The end result of cut grading is a final grade that can go from a 0 or ideal to a 10, which is poor. Each of these grades are priced a little differently. That's why you can see a diamond with a fine color and clarity priced low, particularly on the internet, because a trained gemologist won't buy it for resale because of the poor cut. Unfortunately, these type deals aren't good deals. They're bad deals for the unknowing customer.
Underwoods in San Marco, Avondale, and the shops of Ponte Vedra.
Hello, all you Jacksonville sports fans. Don here from Taco Lou. If you're in the mood for some great tacos, cold Dos Equis, maybe even a sip of some fine tequila, then the Lou is calling your name. Come out to Jack's Beach and experience what many have dubbed the #1 taco in the 904.
There are plenty of great taco joints in town, and we're proud to have been around for this long, and we have only you, the fine people of Jacksonville, to thank for helping us grow and become who we are today. Cheers to you, Jacksonville, and thank you from the Lou crew. Taco Lou in Jacksonville Beach.
Attention North Florida, it's time to elevate your game night. Head to Best Bet, your premier destination for poker. With locations in Jacksonville, Orange Park, and St. Augustine, we have a seat ready for you. Whether you're a seasoned poker player or just starting out, we have you covered with easy-to-learn games like Ultimate Texas Hold'em or 3-card poker. And it's not just poker. With delicious food, lively bars, and big screen events, there's something for everyone. Visit bestbetjacks.com to learn more. That's bestbetjacks.com. And ante up for fun.
DivorceMenOnly.com. This is Kenny Lay of Kenny Lay & Associates. Our firm specializes in representing men in family law. That's all we do. That's our only focus. We can help with all of your family law needs, such as divorce, custody, alimony, and child support. For over a decade, we have helped thousands of men with these types of issues. We even have an appellate division ready to challenge a judge's ruling. If you need a family law attorney, go to DivorceMenOnly.com. DivorceMenOnly.com. Offices, Jacksonville.
This date in sports history is brought to you by Southeast Orthopedic Specialists.
On June 3rd, 2012, Tiger Woods claims his 73rd PGA Tour victory at the Memorial Tournament, equaling Jack Nicklaus' record.
A lot of companies will tell you they're the best. At Custom Tree Surgeons, they show you every time. Custom Tree Surgeons has built an all-pro team. Every tree service professional has years of experience, continually trained and certified. They know what, when, and how to handle any job. It gets done efficiently and quickly by a team of experts. So for tree trimming, removal, stump grinding, and emergency services, forget any name other than Custom Tree Surgeons. There is no job they can't do better. Go to our website, CustomTreeSurgeons.com. That's CustomTreeSurgeons.com, and let them show you how the job is supposed to get done.
Are you looking for a place to outfit your truck or van? It's Catlin Truck Accessories. For 105 years and 4 generations, Catlin is the name you can count on. This is Keith Catlin, and we know trucks and vans too. From Lear toppers, ladder racks, van shelving, strobe lighting, roll and lock bed covers, and everything in between. If you want quality products and great customer service, there's only one name. It's Catlin.
Who can you count on? Count on Catlin.
For 105 years, you can count on Catlin.
It's tune-up time, and Florida Home AC, the official AC partner of the Jaguars, wants to partner with you for a cool summer season. Tune up your AC unit right now so it's running at peak performance when you need it most. Just call 777-4300 and order a tune-up for just $59. Keep your unit humming at optimal level. Log on to FloridaHomeAC.com and take advantage of their savings. Keep cool with Florida Home AC. That's 777-4300.
Jumbo Shrimp Baseball is home this week at the newly renovated VyStar Ballpark. It's a Forever Vets Dog Day tonight, followed by a Wear It Home Wednesday t-shirt giveaway presented by Renewal by Anderson and Am Better Health. River City Pride and VyStar present Pride Night on Coors Light Thursday, then fireworks Friday and Saturday. Baseball all weekend. JackShrimp.com for tickets. Jumbo Shrimp Baseball, affordable family fun.
What does the logo on the Pittsburgh Steelers helmet signify? The answer next.
When you file a claim with Southern Oak Insurance, we schedule one of our trusted vendors to work directly with you, which means a faster claim resolution. Find out more at southernoak.com.
Our family protecting yours. Southern Oak Insurance.
The logo on the Steelers helmet represents the steel industry. It's the only NFL team with the logo on just one side.
Southern Oak Insurance. Our family protecting yours.
1010XL is presented by Farah and Farah, exclusive injury law firm of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Protecting you and your family. Call 396-5555. Jacksonville. Now, breaking news.
The mysterious case of one C.J. Stroud continues out in Houston, Texas. D'Amico Ryans was asked following the Texans' OTA practice today about quarterback C.J. Stroud once again not throwing due to shoulder soreness. He said in part, quote, "There are no concerns with CJ, just general soreness. We're taking extra precaution with him. He will be good to go. No concerns on my end there." Our good friend Cole Thompson noting the concern level has moved to 0.00003 after 3 practices, Taylor and Lauren. But I just find it fascinating that we didn't know about this soreness or any sort of issue with his shoulder. And now all of a sudden that is a conversation on this June the 3rd.
Yeah, I texted our friend Cole Thompson about it. Obviously, he covers the Texans, and I was like, what's going on with Stroud? I was like, was he hurt last year? Was he hurt this offseason? What's going on? And he literally just said, it's a nothing burger that exists because it's the offseason. So we've seen those situations, and I'm guessing it's just some sort of tiny bit of soreness in the arm, and they're being precautionary because you're in OTAs and it doesn't really matter. And now, since it's OTAs, people are making it into this big deal.
It would be very concerning if it was Trevor Lawrence, who was coming off of shoulder surgery.
Definitely, yeah.
And if he wasn't throwing yet, all of those red flags would be up and they would be waving as high as they do at the ocean when it's bad conditions.
Yeah.
But because it's CJ Stroud we don't know of any injury
or any surgery.
That's what I asked.
Right.
I asked if he was hurt last year, and he said no.
Yeah.
So it's just something that probably popped up a little bit this offseason.
So this is Caitlin Clark's left quad injury.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, yeah,
but yeah,
she's
to
gonna
that
be
point,
out.
if he was coming off like a shoulder surgery or
Right.
had a shoulder injury last year, then yeah, that would be, you'd start being concerned.
We know she's out 2 weeks.
She's out 2 weeks.
If he doesn't throw in 2 weeks, then I think the concern level goes
right. No, but I would argue like if this soreness, and again, it's different because of the nature of where this is falling on the calendar. What I'm saying is if this is in the middle of August that he's having general soreness, is he not playing in the preseason games? Because I think he would gut it out and play in a regular season game.
Yeah, but not a preseason.
I still think there's plenty of time.
Oh, no,
But she's saying, like, if it was, this conversation right now where they're saying he's sore, he's not throwing in practice, would he miss the preseason games? And I would say probably. I mean, and that probably isn't ideal for them because they want CJ Stroud out there. It's not like you'll see some of these, like Aaron Rodgers hasn't played in a preseason game in like 70 years. But I think
70? Yeah, 70. That's accurate. That's accurate.
But there's your year 3 quarterback who's coming off a down year, and you have some of those concerns of the offensive line, and you want to see him behind that, and some of the things that you think you've fixed and weapons you've added, because there's a lot of newness on there. You don't have Tank Dell, so you're trying to figure some other things out. You want CJ Stroud out there in the preseason at least as much as at least a little bit to kind of see what this looks like. So if this is lingering in August, then it's definitely a concern. But I think right now, what it seems like to me, each of the last like 3 OTAs that media was reporting at there, each day it was a little bit more. So like the first one, he wasn't even at. The second one, he was there, but he didn't have a helmet on, and he was just kind of sitting on the sideline. Today he had a helmet on, he just wasn't throwing. So it seems like each one, it's a little bit more.
If there is some shoulder tinge or something like that, I'd probably feel more comfortable if he's taking reps and throwing during joint practices, assuming that the Texans have at least one set of those. And then I might not play him in the preseason because that's when the bullets really are flying and guys are trying to make 53-man rosters, and they know that if they can sack CJ Stroud, that's going to be a notch on their belt. So it will be interesting to follow the storyline along. But having just seen this with DJ Lagway when everybody was up in arms about him not throwing, and now he's throwing 3 times a week, up to 210 passes per week. Yeah. It's like, okay, they're ramping him up slowly, and that's the smart thing to do.
And honestly, Lagway's is worse because Lagway has had a shoulder issue since high school.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, it's more, it makes us all curious. Like, well, what's wrong? Why does he have soreness?
Yeah.
Like, there has to be a reason that he has soreness because we've never seen this happen with CJ Stroud before.
Yeah. Well, I woke up and I had soreness, so.
Same here. Next soreness.
Taylor, you can take the rest of the show off. Load management. You're good.
Wait,
You're
my
good.
back
I'll
hurts
do the
too.
Anthony Richardson tap.
Or we didn't get to this yesterday, but the Taylor Walls tap. Y'all probably weren't paying attention to the storyline, but he plays for the Rays. He used to play for Florida State. And it was the Rays Astros late in the game in the 9th inning, and he walked up to the plate, and there was a clear ball thrown by the Astros pitcher, like clearly out of the zone, down and away. And the ump called a strike. And he starts, saying a few things like, clearly that's not a strike, it's a ball. And then he messes with his helmet a little bit. And then for some unknown reason, he starts to tap his helmet. And that's apparently like this unwritten thing in baseball where if a batter taps their helmet, it's showing up the umpire. The umpire threw him out, ejected him on the spot. Taylor Walls starts flipping out. Kevin Cash has to come out. Now players have to come out to restrain Taylor Walls. He gets out of the restraint like 10 yards away from the ump, sprints back. Someone else has to hold him back. It was a wild scene there. The Astros ended up winning 1-0, but I had never heard of such a thing. I had to do a lot of research to figure out what the heck the tap on the helmet even means.
Your baseball team's coaches are being a little wild.
I know, they really are. Kevin O'Sullivan had to issue an apology yesterday after his athletic director, Scott Strickland, basically said that is not how you're supposed to act. But yeah, that's a whole nother story. I did want to go back to the goldfish. We started the show asking if anyone's had the Old Bay seasoned goldfish. They are limited edition. We had multiple people call RJ and say, yes, they are delicious. So I will go ahead and purchase those and bring them in tomorrow. We also had a caller ask when I mentioned Old Bay and Bloody Marys, how much Old Bay in the Bloody Mary. You can do one of two things. You can either just rim the glass with it, so get the glass wet and then spin it in that Old Bay seasoning on a plate, or you can also add Old Bay into the mix. If you don't like the rim, you can certainly ignore that too. I only do the rim around, but also I don't usually ever make them. My dad usually makes them, and that's how he does it. Yeah. But I have seen recipes where you do put like a little dash of Old Bay in with everything. I think it just depends on how spicy you like yours. Yeah. You can also, of course, add hot sauce. Of course, absolutely. And when you get them in a restaurant and they've got like the celery, the olives, the shrimp, like, that's even the best.
You have a whole meal sometimes.
You do. Before you have your meal.
Like, this is my brunch.
Correct. All in one.
I had not heard, to go back to baseball, I had not heard the Rays story yet. We do have a former FSU baseball player on the text line designed by Lifetime Enclosures. Thank you, 962. Shout out to you. Walls was my teammate at Florida State, and while a hothead, I have never seen that play in baseball before.
Okay, thank you. I had never even heard of it, and I don't understand why it's existing as a rule that an ump can literally throw you out just because you're tapping your head. So Taylor Wells said after.
So he didn't say anything?
No. Well, he said like he said like, come on, that was a ball. From watching the video, that's all I could see that he said. After the game, he said that he had no recollection of tapping his helmet. He was messing with it. Then you see his hand go away. Then you see his hand go right back to his helmet, and that's when he taps it. But he said that was completely inadvertent.
A couple Heeligans texted in and said the double helmet tap signifies the challenging of a ball strike that was being tested in spring training this year, and that is how they reviewed balls and strikes.
Well, I guess you can't do that in
the regular season.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
Again, like I said,
the ump just says, was like, no, I'm going to throw you out.
That is correct. Which, like I said, go watch the video if you haven't seen it, because Taylor Walls is furious and does have to be restrained.
So when an electronic umpire is used, because obviously there's electronic umpires at every Major League Baseball game. I'm just kidding. That is when you tap on the helmet to say you want to challenge it. MLB warned players to not do it during the regular season to show up umpires.
Yeah, so that's the part that I read. But
interesting.
I feel like the ump, if you're being rational, would just say, why did you just tap your helmet? Yeah. And then you can move along and let him, finish it. And
we see some of those umps, though. They get on their high horse, and it's just like nothing you could do at that point.
No. He certainly the ump got his fair share of being screamed at. That is for sure. All right,
leave. You go.
Correct. Just get out of my face. We've got some college football to discuss on the other side. You are listening to Helmets and Heels on 10 to XL 92.5 FM.
Day by day.
A tremendous return. It's first and goal, Jacksonville.
And play-by-play.
And the Jags are going to win it in Wembley Stadium.
1010XL.
Lucas Tree Service is a certified arborist and a local family-owned business with over 45 years of experience. They specialize in tree removal, trimming, and stump grinding for both residential and commercial properties. Get prepared for storm season and receive top-notch customer service from Lucas Tree Service, 904-241-3533. Online at lucastreeservice.com.
Your home is more than walls and a roof. It's where you breathe, drink, and power through life. At Donovan Air Electric and Plumbing, we're here to keep it all running smoothly. From clean, cool air to clean water, reliable power to expert plumbing, we do it all. For over 35 years, families have trusted Donovan to make their homes healthier, safer, and more comfortable. Call Donovan Air Electric and Plumbing today, 904-270-COOL, where health meets home.
Maxed out on credit cards, struggling with high interest debt? You could pay it all off in days with Loan Pronto's Rapid Equity Loan. Hey, it's Prosser here. Get cash out now without touching your low-rate first mortgage. No appraisals, no waiting, no BS. The Rapid Equity Loan Program at Loan Pronto is amazing. One Loan Pronto client just got $300,000 approved in under 24 hours. They paid off debt, renovated their kitchen, and cut their monthly expenses by $1,800. That's a huge turnaround. Instant approvals, low rates, No hard credit pull up front. That's Loan Pronto. Listen, your home equity is yours. Use it. Get cash to consolidate your debt down to one easy, low monthly payment. Call Loan Pronto now for a free instant appraisal for your home and see how much cash you can get today. Loan Pronto is an A+ rated by the Better Business Bureau and have nearly 2,500 5-star Google reviews. Call now and start the conversation. Go to loanpronto.com or call 999-1508. That's loanpronto.com.
Lauren Brooks here. It's the Cruise in the Summer event at Hodges Mazda at the Avenues. For a limited time, get up to $5,000 off a new 2024 Mazda CX-50 Preferred and receive a free 5-day cruise for 2 with your purchase. With off-road capability and this special offer, your summer adventure starts now. But you better hurry. 2024 Mazda CX-50 Preferred models are in limited supply at Hodges Mazda. Offer valid on new 2024 Mazda CX-50 Preferred only. MSRP $32,564. Must trade in a vehicle and finance through dealer to qualify for discount. Cruise and vehicle availability limited. Travel taxes and fees additional. See dealer for details.
Fish know where to hide. Captain Kevin knows how to find them.
That's a big one.
Listen for the Wing Power Fishing Forecast Show, brought to you by Awaken 180 Weight Loss and Royal Pest Services.
Thursday nights at 6
on 1010XL AM.
Well, Trina, now you're in charge of ordering food for the office, so meet my mountain of menus.
So this should be easy.
Easy as pie. You know the mathematical constant for a circle circumference to diameter ratio, pi? It's super complicated.
In that case, I'll be using EasyCater. It's got everything on one simple platform. Tons of restaurants, dietary preferences, even digital receipts.
But my mountain of menus.
How about I order us some pie? EasyCater, the easy way to get food for work.
Listen all day as 1010XL gives you news, notes, and analysis of organized team activities as they get ready for the upcoming season. Our coverage of OTAs is hoisted by Heroes Lawn Care and Hurricane Grill and Wings.
This is Mike Lynch, PGA golf professional. Take it from me. If you're dealing with an orthopedic issue, talk to the doctors at Southeast Orthopedic Specialists, where you're treated like a pro.
This is Dr. Kevin Murphy with Southeast Orthopedic Specialists, where athletes are treated like pros. Thanks to all of you who have allowed us to be part of your recovery. Call us at Southeast Orthopedic Specialists if you ever have a need.
Relieve pain and get back to life. Southeast Orthopedic Specialists.
Mark your calendars. Chicken Salad Chick opens June 10th in Ortega Park on Roosevelt Boulevard. Be one of the first 100 in line on grand opening day and receive free chicken salad for a year. More details on Chicken Salad Chick Ortega Park Facebook page. See you there.
When you need a mechanic you can trust, call Sam, Harry, or Joe at AA Automotive on Richard Street. From oil changes to complex engine repairs, AA Automotive promises expert service and honest pricing from a local family biz. AA Automotive on Richard Street.
Hey Jacksonville, it's Dan Hicken with a game changer. I've tested the field, and Checkmate Coatings is my new go-to for durable, jaw-dropping floor coatings. Better play, better results.
I'm Brendan from Checkmate Coatings. Our precision coatings make your floors the MVP of any space.
Slam dunk your floors at checkmatecoatings.com. Checkmate Coatings, your floor's missing piece.
Checkmate Coatings, your floor's missing piece.
WJXL AM Jacksonville Beach. WJXL FM Jacksonville Beach.
Want a simple way to boost your company's image without a big renovation? A fresh paint job in your brand's colors can increase recognition up to 80%. At Performance Painting, we help companies stand out with clean, on-brand finishes that impress clients and energize employees. From color consultations to low-odor coatings that won't disrupt operations, we've got you covered. Visit performance-painting.com to schedule a friendly estimate. Performance Painting. Prepare, protect, preserve.
Performance Painting!
Have you got concrete or asphalt rubble piling up? Arcosa Crushed Concrete will pay you for it and recycle it. They're just minutes from Everbank Stadium on Talleyrand. Call Arcosa Crushed Concrete and get paid for what you don't need. ArcosaCrushedConcrete.com.
This is your Southeast Orthopedic Specialist local sports update. I'm RJ Saunders for 1010XL. This update brought to you by the Jacksonville Jumbo Shrimp. The National Football Foundation announced the names on the 2026 ballot for induction into the College Football Hall of Fame, which included former Florida standouts Alex Brown, Brad Culpepper, and Percy Harvin. Harvin was a two-time first-team All-American, earning honors at wide receiver, and was an as well as an all-purpose player, as well as helping Florida to 2 national championships and 2 SEC titles while leading the nation in rushing yards per attempt in 2007. Florida State men's golf rising junior Tyler Weaver has qualified for the 125th U.S. Open. Weaver will make his major championship debut at the Oakmont Country Club in Pittsburgh on June 12th through the 15th. Currently 85 degrees at 12:57. Time and temp brought to you by Bueller Air and Plumbing. Stay cooler with Bueller.
1010XL is presented by Farah and Farah, exclusive injury law firm of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Protecting you and your family. Call 396-5555. Jacksonville.
Lately, I've been thinking, I want you to be happier. I want you to be happier. When the morning comes and we see what we've become.
Yeah, Brian Taylor Dahl, RJ Saunders. I'm Lauren Brooks with you on this Tuesday afternoon. Let's get into some college football. I can tell you that 4 fan bases are going to be happy with the conversation we're about to have, and that's about all. Maybe a 5th team could be slightly happy, but really everybody else is not going to be so happy. So ESPN's Football Power Index and the odds for the 2025 National Championship were released today. The Texas Longhorns playoff percentage is almost 84%. Their championship percentage of winning the Natty, 22.2%. Georgia Bulldogs come in second. Chances of making the playoff, almost 79%. Championship percentage, 17.5%. Ohio State, who just won, of course, this most recent one, 70.6% playoff percentage, 11.6% championship percentage, and then Alabama, 66.2% on making the playoff, and the championship, 10.4%. Every other team in the country has less than 10% chance to win the national championship, certainly over 50% odds to make the playoff for a few teams. Penn State, if you're wondering, comes in 5th. If you are looking for the Florida Gators, they have a 14.5% chance to make the playoffs and a 0.6% chance to win the national championship. Is ESPN always right? Absolutely not. Do I think Alabama is that much better than Florida for this year, going into this year with all things considered? Not necessarily. But those percentages were really eye-popping to me.
Thank you for coming to play, everyone. We appreciate your efforts in this college football season. I go back to this, Lauren, in case any of the Heeligans missed our conversation Friday, in which you approached us with the Brooks method, as we are now calling it, and your breakdown of potentially having a net ranking when it comes to the college football playoff selection as opposed to a committee.
Yeah,
and
Brooks Analytics, you can call it that.
Brooks Analytics. And certainly this FPI measurement is just, again, ESPN's power index of how they would rate the likelihood of college football teams to make the playoff and make the championship, not based off of, hey, this is the criteria and whether they met it or not. But I do think what composes FPI, is interesting because it's obviously it's a predictive rating system. This measurement is based off of your team's strength in points per game relative to the national average on offense, defense, special teams, makes adjustments for who you lost, starters lost, recruits coming in, and other personnel changes. Then you plug those numbers into the schedule. Everyone is simulated 20,000 times to track the odds of winning the conference, making the playoff, and winning the national title. So they ran the numbers. 20,000 times is a lot, Taylor.
Yeah. But the numbers are subjective because at this point in time, they have no idea what the offense, defense, special teams are going to look like just based off of who came in and who left.
And that's what I think you can evaluate the players that have left way more than you can recruits coming in. Like, to me, you don't, when you get, or even transfers, honestly, because you don't know what that transfer is going to do on your team. Those recruits, you haven't seen them yet. If they're young, obviously, if they have a year or whatever. The interesting thing to me when you look, especially like just looking at the top 10, of the top 10, there's only 3 quarterbacks that I feel like you really, and maybe not even that, maybe 2, between Cade Klubnik and Drew Aller are the only ones that I feel like you can really say on that specific offense and what they can do. Gunnar Stockton, obviously, you saw him in moments this last year. Arch Manning, you saw him in moments this last year. But I think beyond that, and then Carson Beck moving to Miami. So you've seen Carson at Georgia, but you haven't seen him at Miami. So to me, that is what stood out to me is like of these top 10, when we've gone through our quarterbacks that we think are going to be the best quarterbacks of this season. Not most of them outside of maybe Arch are in this conversation at the top.
Yeah, 6 through 10, Oregon, Clemson, Miami, for all you Hurricanes fans. We do know Carson Beck. What will it look like down there with the Hurricanes? We shall see. Notre Dame comes in at 10, Notre Dame 9, Tennessee 10. Tennessee to me is fascinating,
I know.
right?
They
you
love
lost your quarterback the day before the spring game, the most important player on the field for you, especially in a system where the head coach is such an offensive guru. And he leaves and you, replace him with Joey Aguilar, who's flip-flopped sides of the country.
But has never played in a Power 4 game.
They have a lot of confidence in him because I feel like every list we've seen, even when we were talking about the season total numbers that like the projected season or betting odds for the season totals or whatever, Tennessee, they had at 9.5 wins or something like that. And every list you see them on, they must have some sort of, whether it's Heupel, it's Heupel, but you still have to have some level of confidence in Aguilar because with Nico last year, Nico didn't even look that great last year with Heupel, so they must think that Aguilar can do something with him.
Yeah, Nico was certainly, Iamaleava was certainly very inaccurate with his deep ball. What's crazy to me is Florida, with all that they've gained to this point, this ESPN version, the FPI, has them at 6.4 wins. And I know the schedule's tough, but the schedule was tough last year. I would argue this team's better, certainly has more weapons, and yet you have them winning fewer games.
6.4 wins, but the 19th best odds to win the national title.
Yeah.
What does that say about parity in college football?
Yeah, something's got to give is what I would say.
And it says something about the SEC and the Big Ten, does it not? Especially when you consider how many of the teams in this top 20 hail from those two conferences. Oh, wait, I can tell you. Here's how many don't come from the SEC.
3.
No, you got in the top 20.
Oh, okay.
So you've got Kansas State at 20. SMU at 18. You've got Notre Dame, Miami, Clemson, 5. And that includes 1 Big 12 team, 1 independent, and 3 teams from the ACC. One of which shouldn't even be in there. Sorry, SMU. You shouldn't be playing in the ACC, but alas, here we are.
I think what's fascinating, Texas, Georgia, Ohio State, and Alabama, the top 4. If you were to ask me the top 4 fan bases that will not accept anything other than a national championship, I would give you those 4. And there are other teams. Certainly Notre Dame was knocking on the door a season ago. Penn State feels like every year they get close, but they can't win that one big game that would push them through to the other side. You've got teams like a Tennessee, like we're talking about, that are, or Texas A&M, that spent all this money and has a new coach and they paid to get rid of Jimbo Fisher. Like, they have high expectations, but their fan base is not going to be incredibly disappointed if they don't win the national championship. That's where you have to get. That's where you know that you have one of the best coaches in all of the country. And certainly Steve Sarkisian has skyrocketed to this point with Texas. But for people who have followed his career, he was able to do a lot of really good things offensively. And then because of some off the field stuff, ended up having to go back to Alabama as an offensive coordinator, but he was ascending before that. He just, like I said, had some off the field things. You have Kirby Smart, obviously right now, the best coach in all of college football. You have Ryan Day, who just won the national championship. And while, yes, he was on the hot seat, that's how crazy the Ohio State fans are. And then Alabama, some would say, well, no, they are going to be a little patient with Kalen DeBoer. No, they're not.
No.
Alabama, if they do not make it to probably the Final Four this year, Kalen DeBoer will be on the hot seat.
Oh, really? You think it's Final Four?
Absolutely.
I think they just got to make the play. I think they have to make the playoff and just not get blown out.
Well, they feel like they should have made the playoff last year.
Yeah.
That's the difference.
Right. So if they make if they make the playoff this year,
I still think they're going to be happy.
I don't think they'll be happy, but I think they'll at least be like
another year.
It's fine.
See, I don't think they have that wired in their blood, and that's the point. Is like you want to get to that spot as a college football team. Florida once was there. There was a stretch there that if Florida wasn't winning the national championship, the fan base was just furious.
Yeah, they're happy to
What
be
do you think about in the sense of LSU? Because obviously LSU is 12 on here, just the 1.8. We talk about that huge drop off, but the expectations of when LSU hired Brian Kelly and what they thought they were getting out of that and what it hasn't been yet. And there's been moments where you're like, all right, this is the LSU that you thought you were going to get, and then there's moments where he Brian Kelly's. And
in our first segment, Taylor, in our first segment, we were talking about our second segment. We were talking about the top 5 offensive rookie of the year in the National Football League, offensive rookies of the year. 3 of them,
Brian Kelly had.
Brian
And
Kelly
they won
had on
8
his
games.
team, and they
They won
didn't
8
win. And Jaden Daniels, Malik Neighbors, and Brian Thomas Jr. So, if I'm an LSU fan at this point in time, if he had those guys, but he didn't have a great defense, how do I think he's going to get there? I would have him on a hot seat for sure when it comes to LSU.
Especially because it was so opposite at Notre Dame. Like the defenses at Notre Dame were always kind of what carried things. Granted, they just never really had the quarterback when Brian Kelly was there either. And like they would have some offensive weapons, offensive linemen, yes. But it was always the defense that kind of carried a lot of those a lot of the programs that were successful at Notre Dame. And then at LSU, it's been opposite. They've had this absolutely explosive offenses and haven't been able to fix anything defensively. And so you can make excuses for that for a little bit, but eventually you have to say, why are these people, especially when there's multiple now offensive linemen on the defensive players that were on those LSU teams that are now starting in the NFL also. And so you're like, you had all of this NFL talent. Why were you not winning more than 8 games?
I lied. They did win 10, but that's including the bowl game.
Yeah.
So
there's 9 regular season
So 10-4, 6-2, year 1, made it to the SEC championship game. Injury to Jaden Daniels. Garrett Nussmeier, as a true freshman, has to play. 10-3 last year, 10-3 in 2023 with those 3 aforementioned Rookie of the Year finalists, and that includes the winner, Jaden Daniels. 6-2 once again in the SEC. Last season, 9-4, 5-3 in the conference.
Yeah, it's going to be fascinating to see what Brian Kelly becomes, because if it doesn't work at LSU, I don't know where he goes next. To work at a place like Notre Dame and then to work at a place like LSU, if you can't win at either of those, I don't know which school is going to say, I mean, there will be schools, don't get me wrong, but I don't know that the elite of the elite schools, like those 2 types of teams, will say, we'll take you in, Brian Kelly.
Yeah, and that was his thing. That was his thing for going to LSU was I can recruit better here and I can get players and I can win national championships here. I couldn't do that at Notre Dame. And then now you're like, okay.
And then Notre Dame goes to the national championship, albeit comes up short.
Yeah.
I think an intriguing team when it comes to the like 10 through 20, Ole Miss.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what to make of Lane Kiffin's team. We saw him last week, like joking around with Paul Feinbaum. He seems to be a guy ever since his father passed away that has a different perspective on life, and he seems happier. We've talked to Matt Hayes about that. He seems more at peace. I don't know what this Ole Miss last year's team was supposed to be the team that certainly made it at least close to the Final Four in the college football playoff, and they didn't come that close.
And much like LSU, they lost to the Gators in the Swamp in the second half of the season, at which point they're supposed to be peaking and they're supposed to be ascending. I think that Lane Kiffin largely, I think he's done a great job to bring it back to the conversation in the 12 o'clock hour about Sean McVay separating who he is and what his personal mission in life is from this idea of wins and losses on a football field. I think Lane Kiffin's done a much better job in the last year, 2 years, 3 years of being able to do that on a personal level. But I also think, I don't want to say he's resting on his laurels with regards to it, but he's the king of the transfer portal at this point. He's hit more than arguably anybody else, potentially, in college football at this point in time, consistently year over year. And while I understand the returns haven't been Heisman Trophy, national championship for those players, at the same time, he continues to find a way to bring different pieces together and still win 8 or 9 games. And I know 8 or 9 or 10 games is not enough.
10 would be enough.
For that fan base. I think for that fan base, 9 wins consistently, because what Ole Miss looked like prior to Lane Kiffin, I think that's enough.
It depends on how much you're giving, like as a fan base. If you're giving a ton to NIL dollars, which we know Ohio State did, and it paid off. But if Ole Miss feels like, well, hey, we're giving a lot of money to make this team be successful, and
you have all the same opportunities, why aren't we getting the same product? What do you think what would you expect the record, or should the record be after their first 6 games? Let's just do the first 6. Georgia State, at home against Georgia State, at Kentucky, home against Arkansas, home against Tulane, home against LSU, home against Washington State.
I got them at 5-1 just because I feel like they're going to lose one of those, just because it's going to be wonky and they'll somehow lose one.
Because after that, then they get into Georgia, Oklahoma, South Carolina, Florida, coming up, Mississippi State, and Citadel.
Yeah, I mean,
so you want to have at least 5 wins.
Shout out to the Citadel. They'll be bowl eligible, so that's at least a good thing.
But that's where also Ole Miss lost to Kentucky last year. So
that's why I said one wonky.
Well, LSU's in the top 6, so I certainly right now would probably put my money on LSU over Ole Miss.
So potentially a 4-2 coming out of that.
Yeah, I would think something along those lines. But yeah, they've got a tough back half of the schedule. So buckle up. Oklahoma's an intriguing team this year. South Carolina's an intriguing team this year for sure.
2 quick notes in the college football and the SEC ranks before we hit our next break. Number 1, Lauren, are you buying Lenora Sellers hype train?
Yes.
I like Lenoris a lot.
I think he's fantastic.
I think he's a great player.
He's the reason I argued.
Consistency has to get there, but if he can just kind of settle, I think there's moments that he would just get too antsy, and that's when crazy things would happen. If they can figure out how to kind of level that out, I think he can be really good.
He's the reason I argued for South Carolina over Alabama and over Ole Miss to make the college football playoff. Not just him, but what their back half of the season last year, they were ascending, and the other two, not so much.
I just find it fascinating because after week 1, when they narrowly defeated Old Dominion, not the band, the university. I know
the band comes to Daly's place on Friday.
There it is. I know they switched the contacts, the rec specs, that conversation, but like. I'm all in on him. Like, I think he's a good player, but like this notion of, well, he's going to be the dark horse for the Heisman. If you had told me that even 6 months ago, I don't know if I would fully be bought in on that.
I mean, he does it all.
Are we just prisoners of the moment?
I don't think so.
I think people focused so much on the South Carolina defense, too, that they were like, the
which
defense.
I was enormously high
Yeah.
on.
And they love Shane Beamer's special team.
Yeah.
Right, correct. So my other point I did want to quickly make, this is from the text line designed by Lifetime Enclosures. The Texas love doesn't make sense. The media wants them to be the new Bama badly. Thank you, 318. I would agree with that. I think that in the same vein as we're all buying Lenora Sellers stock, everyone is just assuming, and Taylor, you've made this point before, everyone is assuming that Arch Manning is just going to immediately translate as a full-time starter and that Texas is going to pick up right where they left off. And that is hedging your bet, and we certainly saw promise in the spot duty. It's also hedging your bet that after losing players like Gunnar Helm, who was an NFL draft pick, I know he went to the Titans, losing offensive linemen like Kelvin Banks, that they're just going to continue their onboarding process in Austin, and the machine keeps rolling along. And I just think it's fascinating. We do it every year this time of the year, but those two in particular, the universal. I don't want to say it's blind faith because it's not. There's proof of concept slightly, but this faith, it's an intriguing storyline for me as we progress through the summer.
They lost a lot. Isaiah Bond, Jahdae Barron, another running back. That's one thing they've been able to do really well the last 5, 6, 7 years, especially are those running backs. But Makuba, who obviously I was obsessed with, Kevin Banks, Alfred Collins. Like, there's a lot of big name guys that they lost into the draft this year. And that's what we had that conversation the few years ago after Florida State when I kept saying how quickly can they kind of refurbish some of these things, because teams like Georgia and Alabama and Ohio State are able to do it over and over again. I do think this is a big year for Texas to prove if they can or cannot.
The best teams in college football, not just the SEC, but in college football in general, they don't ever worry about what they lost. They always worry about who they had recruited or brought in from the transfer portal that's behind that guy. Because, of course, they believe I've got enough 4 and 5 stars that are going to replace those guys that left. And while, yes, they were super talented, I've got guys waiting in the wings that have now been in our system for a year. If you look at the Texas depth chart, there's one starter that came from the transfer portal.
Wow.
Starting. Now, of course, the depth chart in June is going to change
a little bit
once we get to the season. But that goes to show you Steve Sarkisian and his philosophy. It aligns very similarly to Kirby Smart and his philosophy, and that is, I want my own guys.
Yeah.
I don't constantly want to be getting guys that are unhappy at their previous situation, and then I have to try and figure out if I can make them happy in the current situation when I bring them to my school.
Also, there you go, our Georgia fans. Lauren did give you guys a shout out there.
I always
they were complaining that we just don't want to talk about Georgia.
I always talk highly of Georgia. It's unfortunate, but I have thought ever since they hired Kirby Smart that this is a team that is going to year in and year out be a perennial SEC title contender, and they've been exactly that. Yeah. How many years under Kirby Smart have they not made the SEC title? I can't think of one. There might be one in there, but I can't think of one off the top of my head.
The year that Alabama and Florida played, 2020.
Oh, yeah. So 2020, the COVID year. So I put that aside a little bit. But yeah, for the most part, like they're always in the SEC title game with Kirby Smart. And that's a testament to, again, not just how he recruits, but how he manages his players, his program, and things like that. He does things the right way. All right, on the other side, I will bring you today's Terminix Pest of the Day. You are listening to Helmets and Heels on 1010XL, 92.5 FM.
I lied a big secret. People are smart. They can handle it.
Because you did not use the magic word.
Well, it is the magic word.
1010XL, where sports magic happens.
Please.
Hey, Hicken here. Tired of glasses or contacts? Discover customized vision solutions at Bowden Eye & Associates. Dr. Bowden's team offers cutting-edge options like EVO implantable Collamer lenses or refractive lens exchange and classic LASIK, designed to fit your life. Picture perfect vision for reading, driving, or just enjoying the day. It's easier than you think. Call now for your free screening. Bow 9 Associates, they're keeping the First Coast focused.
Summer in Jacksonville is coming in hot. Lauren Brooks here. Beat the heat with Turbo Tint. Their window tint blocks up to 99% of harmful UV rays and keeps your ride cool and comfortable. Book today at orangepark.turbotint.com.
Ready to add some value to your day? The everyday deals at Sonny's have got you covered. Right now, you can get the pork big deal for 10, the pork and rib combo for 12, all you can eat ribs for $19.99, and our new loaded barbecue potato for $11. Available all day, every day. And that's why it's always Sonny's here. Sonny's Barbecue. Local pitmasters since '68.
Hey, Hickett here for my friends at Zero Res. Gang, vacuuming is not sufficient to maintain the cleanliness and lifespan of your carpet, period. Do not leave deep cleaning to yourself, but do-it-yourself dirt-attracting carpet soaking machines. No. Call on the cleaning freaks from Zero Res. Big summer savings. 3 rooms of carpet clean starting at $129. Take 20% off air duct cleaning as well. Call them, 904-287-5727, and ask for the 1010XL special. Zero Res, spell it forwards or backwards. It's the right way to clean.
Family owned and managed for 20 plus years, Hidden Hills Golf Club boasts a unique and welcoming atmosphere. Visit us at hiddenhillsgc.com to book your next round on our Arnold Palmer signature course. You'll be glad you did.
Hey, it's Matt Hayes. Let's start with some cold, hard truth. Here's why Awaken 180 weight loss is your road to freedom. It's fast, it's easy, it's safe. You're not shooting chemicals into your body every week. You're eating real food every single day. You're not listening to an overpriced celebrity tell you about magical new food or asking you to count points or calories. You're just eating food and losing weight. It's that simple with Awaken 180 weight loss. You know what else you're doing while losing weight with Awaken 180? Eliminating pain, fitting into clothes you haven't worn in years, sleeping through the night and waking up refreshed and energized and happy. I lost 40 pounds in 9 weeks on Awaken 180, and Hacker lost more than 110 over the course of a year. It's a life-changing road to freedom. Doesn't matter what your goal weight is, Awaken 180 weight loss will get you there quickly and safely, a clear path to success without disappointment. Awaken 180. Give them a call, 844-346-1800, or go online at awaken180weightloss.com.
If you missed it, get it on demand.
And you send those out on the line.
Find your 1010XL favorites where you find podcasts and at 1010XL.com. Channel 5. Duck Rooter Plumbing, Septic and Air Conditioning.
Hey, this is Coach Jason Gibson of your Jacksonville Sharks. I know the importance of a strong game plan, and that's exactly what I've got with Clay Solar Installation Partners. They did the install of the solar panels at my house, and I couldn't be happier. Lower energy bills, clean power, and a winning team that made the whole process easy. If you're looking to save money and go solar, trust the pros at Clay Solar. Call Karen at Clay Solar today and tell them that Coach Gibson sent you.
Guys, want a golf course fairway quality lawn? TopDressing.com just landed in Jacksonville with the golf course secret for St. Augustine grass homeowners. A patented process that aerates and turns your turf into a fairway stunner. Serious golf course technology, but in your yard. Less water, tighter cuts, total neighborhood domination. No one else scores a perfect 10 lawn. Hit TopDressing.com now. You will own the block. Top dress your yard like the pros with TopDressing.com.
Is your backyard ready for the big leagues? Hickett here for Surfside Pools. Serving Northeast Florida since 1977, they have the home field advantage. Family owned and operated, offering weekly pool service, equipment repairs, commercial maintenance, remodels, and new pool construction. Let Surfside Pools make your backyard dreams a reality. Are you ready to float happy? Visit SurfsidePools.net or call 904-246-2666. Surfside Pools and Spas, your hometown MVP.
License number CPC 044080.
What was George Washington's salary when he was president?
Filing an insurance claim following a storm shouldn't be an ordeal. Southern Oak Insurance's claim team prepares for catastrophic situations well in advance. Log on to southernoak.com.
Our family protecting yours. Southern Oak Insurance.
George Washington's annual salary as president was $25,000, about $4.5 million in today's dollars.
Southern Oak Insurance. Our family protecting yours.
It's
T here, and if you've ever been injured in an accident, visit my buddy Dr. McGowan at McGowan Spinal Rehabilitation Center. You have 14 days to see a doctor and protect your insurance benefits, even if you're at fault. And no matter what you hear, you have the right to choose your own doctor. So I recommend McGowan Spinal Rehabilitation. Their auto experts will guide you in every step of the way to ensure the care that you need. Your recovery starts with McGowan Spinal Rehabilitation.
1010XL is presented by Farah and Farah, exclusive injury law firm of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Protecting you and your family. Call 396-5555. Jacksonville.
She'll set the field on fire, just cutting across the pasture.
Time now for today's Terminix Pest of the Day is always brought to you by our friends at Terminix. They will do such a great job at your house or your business like they do at my house, as well as Everbank Stadium, ViStar Veterans Memorial Arena, ViStar Ballpark, all of your favorite event venues around town. All right, ladies, I think both of these have been a Pest of the Day before. These are baseball related, but I'm going to just go ahead and make it a dual Pest of the Day. So Pests of the Day today. The Rockies, I know for sure, have been a Pest of the Day. But here's the stat that I can't get over. They have been swept more times this season than they've won games. They have been swept more times this season than they've won games.
Sad.
That is so sad and embarrassing. So that's a Pest A. And then Pest B, the Royals. I'm pretty sure I've made the Royals the Pest of the Day before for not elevating Jack Caglione. Now that they've done that, that's fantastic. I believe he'll be in the starting lineup tonight as the Royals take on the Cardinals in Kansas City at 7:45. But the reason that the Royals are the other Pest of the Day is Cags will become the first Royals hitter to debut in the major leagues within 1 year of being drafted since Bo Jackson in 1986. You've gone almost 40 years drafting hitters and then not calling them up within the first year. Like,
they've drafted a lot of high school kids. They've drafted a lot of high school kids. I think at least.
If you're going to take that approach, then you think that they need more time. That's fine. I love that Major League Baseball has shifted.
Yeah, me
I
too.
feel like in the last, 5 to 7, maybe 10 years, where you've seen more and more players from college being drafted over players. And they're both drafted, don't get me wrong. They're still the mix of high school. But I feel like they're loving Major League Baseball, and these teams are loving seeing these guys, especially the ones that are staying in school for 5-6 years, to see what exactly they can develop into and become.
Yeah, I agree. And we've talked about that a lot. I think that every club has obviously it has a different approach to how they kind of handle their farm system, and some do it right, some do it really wrong. And I don't know. I don't know the history of what the Royals have drafted in that sense of telling you how many are high school and how, I don't know that. So I can't say that, but it does feel like if that stat right there is glaring in the eyes of, number one, maybe they just have this weird mindset of they want to be able to wait, but or they're just not drafting guys that are ready to come up and play. And that's also a problem, because when you look around the league, you're seeing a lot of the successful teams right now, make these big splash trades and pay a lot of money to Juan Soto's and Shohei Ohtani's, and all of that makes sense. But they also have farm systems that are always ranked in the top 10, and they know how to utilize those in the right way. And the Rockies did finally get to 10 wins. I'm not sure. I thought it was ever going to happen
last night.
But did you see the pictures of the game?
The stadium?
There was 4 people, and that's seriously so sad to me.
It doesn't it boggles my mind knowing the passion for baseball as a sport.
Take that franchise away from Miami and put it in Nashville, or put it wherever else they want.
Jacksonville.
Or put it in Jacksonville.
Look at the shrimp. Look, Liam Cohen's throwing out the first pitch tomorrow night, and I can guarantee there will be more people at the Jumbo Shrimp game than there were at the Marlins-Rockies game last night.
Will he throw a strike? We shall see.
I don't know what the odds.
He's a former
Hard Rock. What are
quarterback,
the odds are on that one? To your point about what's the history of the Kansas City Royals and their draft nature, 3 of their last 5 first-rounders have been right out of high school. Of the 2 who came from college, one was a pitcher, one was an outfielder in Gavin Cross. And prior to selecting back-to-back Gators in the 2018 first round, 5 high schoolers in the previous 5 first-round drafts.
It's an interesting strategy.
It may not be the best strategy as we're seeing, because it's not like since the Royals won the World Series that they've been all that good.
It was a big fall off after that. I feel like World Series happens, and then you've just seen this decline of them, and it seems like maybe that correlates to that approach.
Yeah, certainly it can. I'm excited to see, though. I'm not going to say that I'm going to become a Royals fan and watch the Royals night in and night out because of Cags, but of course I'm going to be paying attention when he's up to bat and just see, can it translate?
Yeah, it's going to be, those storylines are fun. Obviously, when you have the connection, and we followed Cags here, even as a non-Gator fan, I was following what Cags was doing at Florida. So it's really cool to see those players and what they're doing at the next level. I love that anyways. I love hearing about teams' farm systems and these players that you see are like kind of shoot up through their farm system quick and you're waiting for them to get called up and then they have that moment. It's really cool. I love when the teams do the videos like we saw and we played of Cags yesterday too. Another side note, the Rockies' point differential is negative 183.
I am not surprised, but that is a gross
That is
statistic.
so
Well,
sad.
we've said they lost like 21-0 one day, so that certainly does not help that situation.
I can't imagine as a player, having to play 102 more games.
Well, the A's went through it a couple, not to this extent, but like I remember when the A's,
White Sox
last year, I thought that was terrible, but they're on pace to only win like 24 games.
Yeah,
the Rockies.
I mean, at this point, to the whole farm system point, like maybe start bringing some guys up,
Yeah.
see what you got. The Rays, by the way, I think it's fascinating because, of course, Tropicana Field was destroyed in the hurricane, and so they've been playing at Steinbrenner Field, or used to be Legends Field. Now it's called Steinbrenner Field, which is the minor league park of the Yankees, and they've had a ton of sellouts. Now, granted, sellout means like just over 10,000. But to me, what that goes to show you, because 10,000 seems like about as many as they got at the Trop, put them in a beautiful ballpark in Tampa, and I think you'll see attendance skyrocket.
And you
because
don't
they're
have
good
to,
year in and year out.
You don't have to make it a 50,000 person stadium.
No, definitely not.
Like
It should be right around probably like 20,000 or less.
And I hate to be that guy, but that is something that we are seeing in college basketball to create a more intimate atmosphere, yes, but also to increase the price of the ticket because supply, demand.
Yeah.
And so if you are the Rays, if you are the Rockies, their stadium's okay, their team is not.
Yeah, the stadium is gorgeous.
Yeah. If you make a stadium that only seats 15,000, well, all of a sudden the perception of no one goes to Rays games, even though you're skewing it, it also creates an atmosphere that potentially can give you a home field advantage, in addition to just, quite frankly, being more aesthetically pleasing than what the Marlins are currently dealing with.
Yeah, and you have to have some really nice suites, corporate suites, to be able to drive the price up for those. Because if you're only going to have 15,000 seats, then you're telling the owner you're not going to make as high of a revenue. But if people aren't going, then those are wasted seats anyways. Speaking of baseball, by the way, Miami at Louisville, that super regional, will begin on Friday at 3 p.m. And then the second game will be the next day at 11 a.m. And then Florida State at number 8, Oregon State. That game 6 p.m. and then 9 p.m. So 6 p.m. is the time out west, and then 9 p.m. Eastern. Same with Miami at Louisville. That's the first game, 3 p.m. But that doesn't make sense. I don't know. I copied and pasted from ESPN, and now their times aren't making sense. But either way, Miami and Florida State get going on Friday, and then there are 4 regionals that begin, super regionals that begin on Saturday, including Tennessee at Arkansas, which is going to be just scintillating watching because Arkansas, I think, is a little feisty on their social media, and Tennessee is feisty on the field. So we'll certainly be paying attention to that one. By the way, I've got some of the best players in all of the super regionals to pay attention to. One of them is Florida State pitcher Jamie Arnold, the left-hander. Some people think he'll be drafted number 1 overall. I've seen other drafts, like the MLB draft. Their mock draft has a high school player going number 1 overall.
Yeah, Robert on the YouTube chat asked if we think Jamie Arnold will be a top 5 pick.
Oh, 100% top 5.
Yeah.
I just don't know whether he'll go number 1, number 2, number 3, somewhere in there. But yeah, we shall see. All right, we've got one segment to go. You are listening to Helmets and Heels on 1010X on 92.5 FM.
Catch a side draft on a super speedway. Closing the gap. This Sunday at Michigan International Speedway. This time it's going to pay off. NASCAR is tuned up by Maxie's Mechanics on 1010XL.
From humble origins on Beach Boulevard to the grandeur of the old homestead, Taco Lou has bucked the odds, selling cheap tacos and even cheaper beers since 2008. I'll be the first to lament that nothing is cheap anymore, but much has not changed in 17 years. Bangin' Shrimp still rocks, margaritas flow day and night, and we love to see old friends and make new friends every day. You can still spin the wheel or sit outside on the patio in the sun with friends and family. It's been a ton of fun, and we have you, Jacksonville, to thank for 17 years. Taco Lou in Jacksonville Beach.
June is Men's Health Month. Be proactive towards your prostate, ED, low T, even kidney stones with Ackerman Urology. Offices in Mandarin, Middleburg, the Beaches, and World Golf Village. Trust the men's health experts at AckermanUrology.com.
Are your monthly bills keeping you up at night, wondering how you got so behind? Hey, I'm Roger Moore, CEO of Loan Pronto. I get it. Life is expensive now. Insurance, groceries, cars. And then there's the credit card debt with those obscene interest rates. It's time to regain your financial freedom. And that's what we offer at Loan Pronto, using the power of the equity in your home. We have multiple ways to get you the cash you need, and most clients close in 2 weeks or less, and many don't even require an appraisal. And listen, rates have been plummeting recently. We just locked a homeowner in with an APR in the low fives, saving her over $1,000 per month, and put $10,000 in her pocket. Life-changing money. Whether you're drowning in debt, have a nosebleed rate you got last year, need home improvements, or simply need cash in your pocket, we can help you accomplish this goal in record time. Call us today and get started with no hard credit pull, just a conversation. LoanPronto.com, 904-999-1508. LoanPronto.com. That's LoanPronto.com.
Equal housing lender, NMLS 1661781, subject to lender approval, NMLSConsumerAccess.org.
I-9 Sports is geared up for fun for kids all over the First Coast with summer and fall registration now open. Kids ages 3 to 17 can get in the gym or on the field with I-9 Sports, covering Clay, Duval, St. John's. And I-9 has all-girls flag football at Oakleaf, UNF, Fletcher, and Creekside. Plenty of other spots and sports on the First Coast to take advantage of. Don't miss out. Registration now open for summer and fall at I-9 Sports. Enter 1010 in the promo code for a discount.
If you are an experienced electrician looking for your next big opportunity, look no further than the Miller Electric Company, a trusted name in the industry for over 96 years. At Miller Electric, we tackle the biggest projects in the city, offering you the chance to showcase your skills on a grand scale. We believe in rewarding hard work with the best pay, top-notch benefits, and an unbeatable culture where people actually care about each other. Take your career to new heights with Miller Electric Company. Apply today at millercareers.com. Miller Electric, an equal opportunity employer.
It's a magical phone line. Check this out. It brings you things you can't get anywhere else, like insider insight from sports experts. Listen for the Checkmate Coatings phone line. Check every day on 1010XL.
Out here, you'll find a community of hardworking creators with loyal followers, along with proud moments worth sharing. And farm to table, well, that's just supper. And whether it's a raised garden bed, acres of land, or something for your animals, we've got all the supplies and are happy to share a little know-how.
Welcome to Tractor Supply, into life out here.
Swing into the hottest party of the summer. Join First Tee Door Florida at the Yards on June 12th for the Summer Soiree Baja Beach Bash. We're bringing the vibrant spirit of Cabo San Lucas to the First Coast for an evening of family-friendly fun. Enjoy live music, craft cocktails, golf games, raffle prizes, and delicious Mexican-inspired cuisine from Taco Lu. Golf, fiesta, and philanthropy, all to support the impactful programs of the First Tee. Visit firstteenorthflorida.org/summer soiree to secure your tickets today.
The 2025 season schedule has dropped, and single game tickets are on sale now. Be at the bank to watch Travis Hunter, Trevor Lawrence, and the Jaguars take on the biggest names in the NFL. Don't miss your favorite matchup and secure your tickets now by visiting jaguars.com/tickets or call 904-633-2000. See you this fall, Jags fans.
Yes, sir. That's the best decision. I love it.
As a law enforcement officer, safe roads are one of my top priorities, ensuring everyone can get home safely each day. Some never will, due to aggressive driving, being distracted, or speeding on the roads. And too often, that results in the toughest part of my job and the longest walk in my life. I'm so sorry. I have some very sad news to share with you.
9 people will be killed on our Florida roadways today. Don't let it be you or a person you love. Buckle up every trip, every time. Let's get everyone home safely. A message from Florida Department of Transportation, Target Zero. For more information, visit targetzerofl.com.
Spring has sprung, and so have the bugs. It's Hayes Carline and my friends at Kingfish Pest Control offer an exclusive $99 spring special. That's right, your initial pest control service is just $99. And if you call today, they'll include a free one-time mosquito treatment. Kingfish Pest Control is family-owned, 5-star rated with no binding contracts, and 100% satisfaction guarantee. Call them now to book your service. Only at Kingfish Pest Control, proud partner of the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Have you got concrete or asphalt rubble piling up? Arcosa Crushed Concrete will pay you for it and recycle it. They're just minutes from Everbank Stadium on Talleyrand. Call Arcosa Crushed Concrete and get paid for what you don't need. Arcosa Crushed
PestConcrete.com.
Team 10XL is presented by Farah and Farah, exclusive injury law firm of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Protecting you and your family. Call 396-5555. Jacksonville. Now, the cool down with Donovan Air Electric and Plumbing. Keeping Jack's cool since 1987.
All right, got a news update, also got a funny. Which would you guys like to hear first?
Funny.
Yeah.
All right, let's start with the funny. Our friend Vern Dumquist on Twitter, Chris Marler, the head of social at our friends 1045 Baton Rouge, actually, not just his Twitter name, that's his government name. On3 tweets out that 2027 four-star quarterback Gunnar Rivers, not Gunnar Helm, not Phillip Rivers, Gunnar Rivers took his first visit to the University of Texas yesterday. Gunnar Rivers is, of course, the son of 8-time Pro Bowler Phillip Rivers, to which our friend Mark...
One of the many sons.
Yeah. Well, that's what Chris quote tweets. He said, we are about to get one of these every 1 to 2 years for the next decade, like the Fast and Furious movies. Ben Stevens of Sports Grid follows up with that. He quote tweets the On3 report with the evaluation on the scouting profile on On3 and says the player comp is perfect, 10 out of 10, no notes, evaluated by Andrew Ivins, who says that the comp for Gunnar Rivers is Phillip Rivers. So now that we've given you a little bit of funny, a little bit of Jaguars news as well, according to Matt Zenitz of CBS Sports and 247 Sports, the Jaguars are expected to hire Michigan State Executive Senior Associate AD and Assistant General Counsel John I don't even Dykema. I don't even want to attempt that one because I don't want it to be interpreted the wrong way. John spent 14 years prior to his time at Michigan State. The last year he had spent, or I guess last 4 months actually, that was quick. He had spent 14 years with the Detroit Lions in a variety of different roles, including director of football compliance, lead football counsel, manager of football administration, and so potentially another hire to James Gladstone's front office. And curious to see what role he would fill here in Jacksonville.
Yeah, he's had a lot of words in his titles.
That's what I was about to say. Can we shorten these a little bit?
Exactly. I would pronounce it Dykema, John Dykema.
Okay, there we go.
Or it could be Dykema, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But if that's the case, it rhymes with Hickema.
Sycamore, yeah, exactly. Ask Trevor how he feels about that one.
As far as a quick little update when it comes to the Jaguars on the field, the official Jaguars Twitter just tweeted out a video of Travis Hunter in quote-unquote sticky coverage. He's covering wide receiver Darius Lassiter and comes away with an interception. I am really hoping that on Thursday when we get to see the 10th OTA practice out there on the field at the Miller Electric Center that we will see Travis Hunter on defense. That's what I'm hoping. And
well, it looks like today is his defensive day, and it so far, because there's been 3 practices per week during this phase 3 of the offseason program. And 2 out of the 3 days he's been on offense, and then the third he's been on defense, and none of those days have coincided. If that video is from today.
And it may not be. We don't know.
Yeah.
It could be from last Friday when he was playing.
Yep.
Yeah, I'd love to see that video that Liam Combs was talking about with De'Ami Brown going up for that one-handed catch behind the back, and then Jordan Lewis ends up coming away with it. That was cool. We did get to see yesterday that time that Foye Oluokun not intercepted, but ended up breaking up the pass between Trevor Lawrence and Brenton Strange. So they do such a great job with their videos. If only we had access to every single one and we could share with everyone. By the way, I did clear up that super regional schedule. I was super confused based off of the timing, but it's the first game between Miami at Louisville that is at 3 p.m. That one's on ESPN2. And then the next day, it'll be at 11 a.m. And then the third game is to be determined. All of the third games, if necessary, are to be determined. Number 9, Florida State at number 8, Oregon State. The first game is Friday, 6 p.m. And then the next game would be Saturday, 9 p.m. So there you have it. And now it makes way more sense.
Yeah. I going back real quick to the Travis Hunter conversation and defense, because something we didn't talk about yesterday was the comment that when Coach Milas, the secondary coach, said he wants more time with Travis Hunter. That in general, that's interesting to me because I've gone back the last since we've drafted Travis. I kept saying it's just going to be kind of fascinating to see how much pull each side. And Liam Cohen's an offensive coach, so he's going to kind of want to probably lean that way a little bit. But at some point, as being a head coach, when you have a Udensky and then you're having Coach Camp and Coach Milas all in your ear fighting over no, we need more Travis Hunter time. But in that same vein, I think that it's showing that he loves Travis Hunter and he wants, obviously,
Absolutely.
he knows Travis Hunter can make plays, so he wants him out there to help the defense. But I also think there's this world where these guys also are going to say, okay, if you want him ready for the season, I also need more time with him. So it will be fascinating how they balance all of this. And this is going to be one of the most, I think, intriguing storylines in the NFL this offseason.
I can't wait to see, and we talked about this a little bit yesterday, Taylor. I can't wait to see which one he's better at. And the answer may be he's elite at both. The answer may be he's very good at both or good at both. I don't know that part yet because, again, we've only seen him on offense. I've only seen him in person the one day. But what if he ends up being like a way better corner? Then who's the Jags' third receiver? I guess it would be Parker Washington. Who's the fourth receiver at that point in time? I don't know any
Maybe
of those
one of these young
answers
cats
yet.
because James
Sure.
Gladstone has said they want to get the young guys competing.
Yeah.
So maybe that's where that player steps in. Maybe that's why you have 3 third-round picks in the 2026 NFL draft. And maybe you swing one of those picks for a player.
And then does Jarian
Cephas,
Jones...
he specifically mentioned Cephas when they were talking about him. So
Yeah, but then does Jarian Jones sit on the bench for long periods of time because Travis Hunter's in there with Tyson Campbell and Jordan Lewis is the nickel, or
And
do they
that's
rotate the nickel? That's what's interesting to see.
And Mike Dempsey is a little, I don't want to say concerned, that's probably the wrong word to use, but when we've had conversations and crosstalk of, the players that I'm excited to see this year, anytime I've mentioned Jarian, he's a little concerned at how much Jarian's actually going to be on the field if Travis Hunter ends up playing that bigger role in the secondary and then some of the other things that are happening, because it would be unfortunate, in my opinion, because I think Jarian's the exact type of player that I want to see on the secondary when it comes to the flashes we saw this last year. There were moments where he was the best defensive player, and that was despite being a rookie and despite being under a coaching staff that was very not good. And so I think
very terrible.
And I just love that personality. Like we need those type of that type of energy on here more. And so it would be really unfortunate to me if we are seeing a world where, I guess it wouldn't be, because if Travis Hunter is that good and you want him on the defensive side of the ball, that means you just drafted somebody who's playing a major role in your defense. So it's not bad in that sense. But for me, it would kind of suck in the sense of not having Jarian on the field.
And it may be that Jarian beats out Jordan. I'm not going to sit here and predict that because they pay Jordan a lot of money to be the nickel, I feel like.
Jordan's also 31 years old.
Yeah.
So even if this is like an onboarding, I mean, it sounds like at least, I asked Liam Cohen yesterday about where Jarian's playing to specify, and he said he's starting on the perimeter. Like that's the plan, is he'd play on the outside.
Right.
But he did stress that, hey, we do want him to be able to slide in at times as well. So that says to me more dime packages, potentially maybe even exploring, can you play Jarian at safety? He told Jamal St. Cyr of Channel 4, he guards people. That's what he does. So if you say to him, okay, maybe we'll make you more of this roving of sorts, defensive chess piece.
Like we thought Antonio Johnson might be.
Right, which that's a sad one too for me, because I again, this is just first off the bus eye test.
Yeah.
Looking at Antonio Johnson at practice yesterday, I don't want to sound like Coach Campo, but I'm channeling my inner Campo when I say, I was like, oh, dang, he's a good looking long corner. He's long, he's physical, looks like he's added muscle in his upper body. And I was just like, dang, I need this kid to put it together. Don't know.
Maybe he will.
Maybe he will.
With the new staff.
Maybe he will.
We're going to hold out hope for all
and
these
more
guys.
zone coverage. Everyone wants to nitpick this idea of Jarian Jones has never played in a zone scheme because he's spent so much time in college, and now his first season in the NFL in a predominantly press man coverage. Maybe that changes things for Antonio Johnson. I don't know.
And maybe Buster Brown right now is the guy that their kind of idea is to have him opposite Tyson Campbell and see what he can do. I thought he looked really good. And again, it's just OTAs. But if Travis Hunter is, again, still primarily going to be a receiver and then just brought in on the defense in certain downs and special situations, it's all like the world is our oyster kind of thing right now, because there's nothing that's done anything, or there's no one that's really deserved that starting spot except a few players like we've always talked about. By the way, looking at last year's guys, Mitch Morse retired, Brandon Sheriff a free agent, Ronald Darby retired, and then Gabe Davis released, but he is scheduled to travel to Pittsburgh tomorrow to meet with the Steelers on Thursday.
Yeah, that just kind of shows where that roster was last year. And there were so many jokes that I wanted to make when I saw the Darby news yesterday, and I was just like, I'm going to let this guy retire in peace and not be mean after one season. But I was like, dang, I kind of wanted to see BTJ and Travis Hunter burn Ronald Darby when he was on the Texans. I was kind of hoping he was going to be their starting corner because I don't think he played very well. But
And he did not.
Yeah, he did not. And so, but it's also, obviously, he's to that point in his career where he also is realizing maybe he just doesn't quite have it anymore. The interesting, going back real quick to what you were talking about when it comes to the corners, though, and what that could possibly look like. And I know, obviously, Tyson Campbell just got a contract, and Tyson Campbell, PFF just came out with their rankings, have him as one of the top, and I think they ranked 32, so like top 30 corners or whatever in the league. He's there. Him and Jordan Lewis are both on that rankings. But he also has missed games every single year except his sophomore season. And so you have to also kind of plan for that. It gets, when there's a level where it's like, okay, this is a little unlucky one year. It starts to become a habit. And when it starts to become a habit, you have to have a backup plan. So right now in this world, I am more confident if Tyson Campbell goes out, what this the corners now that can step up and replace him in that sense than I was the last couple years.
And that's part of why I know on Duval Rundown, when we did our way too early 53-man roster projections, I know there are those who question Buster Brown's lack of speed, but ultimately for me, he's as good of a plug-and-play backup as there is at the position in the NFL. If you need him to start for a couple of games, if you need him to come in off the bench, he's proven that over the last 2 years, and so that's where I think that steady hand, even if there's athletic limitations, he knew the playbook last year. I would assume he's picking it up quickly. I don't know for certain this go-round, but a steady, easy guy who right now, I mean, if Tyson Campbell goes down, that's who you're looking to.
Yeah.
Is it not?
Yeah.
Yeah, at that point, I would imagine it's Jarian Jones and Buster Brown with Travis Hunter mixed in. It's in certain situations. That's where we need training camp to be able to see who can cover the likes of De'Ami Brown, the likes of Brian Thomas Jr., and certainly Travis Hunter. And I wonder, Mia, if we get to training camp, I know Coach Cohen has said to this point he's not going to have Travis Hunter play offense and defense in the same practice. I wonder if we get to training camp, if there will just be certain situations like what we'd expect to see on Sundays, if they'll say, okay, you've done all the receiver drills today, and now we're just going to put you just in this maybe red zone portion as a corner.
Do we have the jersey like on a hanger outside?
Right. Yeah,
like
just like the one special jersey.
Is there a designated jersey switcher? Like who is in charge of wardrobe?
I volunteer for that.
Real quick, because I was just looking back. So the PFF corner ranking, so it is, they ranked the top 32 corners in the NFL right now. Tyson Campbell, they have at 27, and they start saying that another quarterback who struggled to stay healthy, but if he can't stay healthy, he has the talent to be a top 10 player. And then they have Jordan Lewis at 28, and they said after spending 8 seasons with the Cowboys, Lewis heads to Jacksonville fresh off the best year of his career. He ranked 8th in PFF advanced coverage grades, though he's had an up and down career playing out of the slot.
All right, there we have it. Let's say hello to Matt Hayes.
Now, the 2-minute drill. Serviced by Cool Cats Heating and Cooling. Locally owned and operated. We're your neighbors. CoolCatsJacks.com.
The coolest cats in town.
You thought we were going to have Texas, Oklahoma in the Women's College World Series, didn't you?
Wow, what about that game?
Texas Tech's a great story, man.
It is a great story. But Oklahoma, after having won 4 in a row, and then when they hit that 2-run bomb to tie it up, I thought we were going to have Texas, Oklahoma.
I think the bigger story, honestly, is that softball is so big now.
Oh, yeah.
It's become like a legit sport where everyone is watching. It's not a niche sport anymore. And I think you look at that stadium that's packed for every game, right? And it's just those games. Have you seen any of those games that aren't good? Any of them? Very few.
Yeah, maybe just some of the Florida ones.
I was going to say maybe some of the Florida games.
I mean, like in the last 7, 8, 9, 10 years. Like I can remember that Oklahoma-Tennessee game that won like how many innings? Like 18 or something?
Yeah, something crazy like that.
I remember watching that going, okay, this might be the start of something. And it kind of really was.
Yeah,
and
the sport has...
That whole event now is so big.
Yeah, the sport has definitely blossomed. The only downside was there was a lot of regional college baseball action last night too. So I feel like some people's attention went to the baseball versus softball. But yeah, we have the championship series starting on Wednesday between Texas Tech. So that whole in-state rivalry will be fun.
They hate each other.
Absolutely, as well they should. All right, Matt, what are y'all doing today?
Leon's back.
All right.
From Jamaica.
We're going to get some Jamaica stories. There's no doubt about that.
By the way, I was laughing so hard. I think it was yesterday when you said you were getting pictures from Leon and he's sending you like beer pictures of Red Stripe beer, and then Hacker sending you his tropical fruity.
I thought Hacker would have no cell service. He told multiple people in this building that he would have no service because he'd be out
for the
on
work,
water.
but to send the fruity drinks, he's got it.
He's it looked like a Mountain Dew, and he goes, "No, man, it's melon." So it's like,
Hey, that's healthy.
I don't even like,
Wanna wake and
he's
wanna
like
eat.
showing me like chocolate drinks he's drinking and this cinnamon something drink. And I'm like, oh my God, like the sugar of that is just overload. Anyway, it's funny as hell. We always go
Maybe sugar-free simple syrup went into those.
Yes, I'm sure. There's
Maybe.
no doubt about it.
Sure.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks, Matt.
Thanks, ladies.
We'll be listening. All right. That'll do it for us today. For Mia O'Brien, for Taylor Dahl, for RJ Saunders, I'm Lauren Brooks. These heels are made for talking. We will talk to you tomorrow, but don't go anywhere. Leon with stories from Jamaica come up next on 10 to Next on 92.5 FM.